confirm life after death and divine intervention. This is the way of the Africans of Asia. They let you do it, and then they show you in a book of stone what you did. This is the way of the gods. At the entrance, they show you the righteous gods on the right, the wicked gods on the left, and in the center, the future Buddha represents divine intervention. These are the demons. The previous illustration showed you the gods, and they're holding a serpent. This shows you both forces, the good and the evil, and divine intervention, the future Buddha appearing at a certain point in time. And this is the city of the future Buddha, with 50 towers. Each tower has either 9 floors or 7 terraces. And in the Buddhist scripture, they tell you that it will appear a stupa is a temple. And this temple that appears at the end of the cycle to confirm the teachings of the black people of Asia, give its applause. It will confirm and bear witness to that which you have just seen. Now, in closing, the word nega is a very profound word. It's represented by the serpent. And the serpent or snakes can be found throughout this city, buried in the jungle. The serpent was the symbol of the black people of the world. Why? Because a serpent or a snake changes its skin. That means it doesn't have a standard body that it stays in. It lives, it dies, and it comes back. When a serpent changes his skin, it's symbolic. It means that he changes bodies, but he never dies. So that's why the serpent is a symbol. It's a symbol of immortality, of not dying, of changing bodies, but never actually dying physically. That's why the serpent is buried throughout this city to show you that the Africans of Asia prove life after death. And we can find a clear definition that is well known in this book, put out by the Theosophical Society, identifying various terms. Now, I'm going to read from this book. There you see it right on the screen. I'm going to tell you exactly what it means. Literally, serpent, the name in the Indian pantheon of the serpent or dragon spirits, and the inhabitants of Patala, hell. These niggas are in hell. But Patala means antipodes and was the name given to America. Now, these are some niggas in hell in America, given to America by the ancients who knew and visited that continent before Europe ever heard of it. This term is probably akin to the Mexican nagals, and they have them as the gnats in Burma. And the esoteric term is represented by the dragon in China and Tibet, and it varies all countries all over the world. In South and Central America, they're called niggas or nagal. It's known all over the world. It's widespread. It's associated with cosmic forces, with celestial gods, with the constellations, with astrology. The nega, the serpent, is the identifying symbol of your ancestors because they never died and they had a way of proving it. All you have to do is look at the ancient ruins all over the world, the ancient temples, the ancient symbols of divinity from China to any place you go. Right here is the wisdom. They were identified with wisdom and with death and rebirth and resurrection. They would identify with the resurrection of the dead, of proving life after death. That's why the serpent changes its skin. And it was the symbol that your ancestors lived, die, and come back. And you could go to North, Central, or South America before the conquistadors came. These were the pyramid temples with the serpent, the nega outside. Step pyramids, the same principles used all over the world. You will find all over the world, and the serpent is present in each one of them. The nega. In all ancient traditions. In Asia, the nigga sits on a serpent, symbolized by the black man, the Africans of Asia. 7 cosmic forces protecting him. In Asia, and you will find the same principal teachings in ancient Egypt. If the Egyptologists would just evaluate this for a minute, they see it's the same people doing the same thing. Now the question arises, why does an immortal savior-type figure arise among the Negro? And that is because the Negro doesn't realize this, but he has been conditioned to go to hell. he and most people on the planet Earth has been conditioned through Hellenism to go to hell. Black people must understand that 4,000 years ago, the slave master was busy falsifying the religious teachings of the people of Asia. He single-handedly rewrote the entire Hindu religion of 1 billion people of India, and he handed distorted teachings to all the people of Asia. As late as 2,000 years ago, they stepped up their religious brainwashing of the people of the earth. They went from Europe through Asia and back. They carved the path of death, destruction, by establishing a false teaching throughout the world, which still stands today. Hellenism, perpetrated by Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great was known and became great for his murder and killing and destruction of everything black that stood in his way. He burned and looted all that was in his path. Without earth movement equipment, he tore down the great multi-storied religious structures spoken about in Deuteronomy and Kings as high places, built by the original man, the Asiatic black man, which showed 9 floors and 7 terraces. These conquistadors did the same thing Pizarro and Cortez when they went through North and South America, bringing the Hellenist doctrine, a doctrine that would put the people of the planet Earth in hell. This is what Alexander the Great is famous for murdering and killing and establishing a false religious doctrine throughout the earth to put the people of the planet Earth in hell. They burned and looted all the religious scriptures that was in their way. Their primary objective was to destroy all religious teachings and to establish a false teaching that would send all future generations to hell. To hell with them, of course. This was the primary objective of the Hellenists. They knew they were going to hell, so therefore they set up a system of murder and killing to hide the teachings of God, so that everyone on earth would go to hell with them. And the Negro, the American Negro, is their number one symbol. He took the brunt of all the false teachings of the enemies of God. It's hard to believe, but it's true. Their objective is to send the people of the planet Earth to hell. The Negro is supposed to lead the way. This document shows that Alexander the Great ran clean through Asia Minor. Alexandria, Egypt is named after Alexander the Great. He messed up and destroyed the true teachings of the Buddhist books, the Pali Buddhism. He set up a semi-Hellenistic culture throughout northwest India. He made the Buddhist statues look like they were Greek instead of black. He went through Syria, through Saudi Arabia, changing the architecture, the science, and the art into a Hellenist appearing doctrine. He affected all religious teachings. He went to India. Alexander went through the entire planet Earth, if not himself personally. The doctrine of Hellenism is now pervaded throughout the planet Earth, and you can see here by this map. This ancient map of Asia. It shows with the swastika, which was the symbol of the Hellenists. The swastika and the cross shows you their influence. Ethiopia, which was called Hither India. It was part of Asia at that time. They separated it from Asia. They show you the cross, where you see the cross and the swastika is where the Aryan doctrine, the Hellenist doctrine, the doctrine that sent people to hell, where they were influenced, where they had the strongest influence on the planet Earth. They were able to destroy all the true teachings. There's no one who has the 100% true teachings that's able to come out the true teachings on the planet Earth today, because they have a penalty of death.
Power off.
Judea, the land of the descendants of Sambo, the original man. See the swastika. The Asian religious teachings have always been under attack. The European Hellenists went from one part of the earth to the other with the primary objective of sending the people of earth to hell. The Hellenist swastika, that's what that means. They have the cross of Christianity, the distorted teachings. This was started 4,000 years ago. That map is from 2,000 years ago. This book called the Book of God, I will explain to you what this book is about a little later. But right now, I just want to show you that what's in this book. It says the plain truth is that not a single sacred volume of the past is free from corruption. This book is explaining to you that all the religious documents in the West are corrupted. The Emperor Nero, they murdered his mother for divulging the secrets. It's punishable by death to speak of the true teachings of God. They killed Nero's mother for doing it. It's punishable by death to teach the Negro, the American, the Afro-American, anything of the truth of God. To disclose this would be punishable by death. There is a contract out for teaching the true teachings of God. The Negro does not know this. The people of the present are ignorant like the people of the past. This book explains to you how they set up death as a penalty for teaching the truth. Death was the punishment, and the priests, the head of the church, were the murderers. They would kill you. They had a vested interest in teaching all the people lies about God. And the priests were the #1 murderers. The Negro doesn't know this. The apocalypse, the revelation, was death to divulge. Now, this was 4,000 years ago, and then as late as Alexander, which was 2,000 years ago. The Messiah, the Negro was looking up in the air for somebody to come down with wings. They say here the Messiah is just a savior. He's a man in all respects, not free from human error. However, his doctrine is the doctrine of God, but he's a human being like everybody else, and he makes mistakes like everybody else. You can't tell your Christian this. He's looking for Jesus Christ to come down on the clock. This mentality in. This is why the stone sculpture speaks loud and clear about the Negro's mentality. He has a robot mentality. He does whatever the white man says. He doesn't realize that he's been brainwashed. This is the fisherman of Nineveh. Noah's Ark. He's on a boat. This is Jonah trying to catch the Negro, to pull him out of the mental destruction that he's in. He's on his way to hell, but he does not know it. That's the Messiah with the net trying to catch the Negro. The Negro is on his way as a robot going to hell like a Frankenstein monster, but he does not know it. This is in stone. Look in your dictionary. This is an Oxford dictionary that Europeans use. White people use this dictionary. Look in the Negro dictionary that you have in your house to see if you find this word, Helen. Helen is the root word of Hellenist. Now look at the meaning of the word Helen, which they will not put in your dictionary. It says of or belonging to hell. Helen is the root word of Hellenism. It's infernal. It's hellish. That's the meaning of the word Helen. If this word Helen means belonging to hell, then Hellenist or Hellenism is a practitioner of putting you in hell. That's what the Hellenist culture is about in this country, belonging to hell. Hellene, a word that says the name applied to themselves. They call themselves this by all Greeks.
More lives not shot in the back, running or choked out to death on the corner. The state the taser for inside, I'm just the coroner. To the yellow journalist that want for writing facts. For worldwide web press stories, always calling them black. Civil rights violated, here from C1.7. And CIA and FBI agents, reckless felons with one big brother, one third. Most more are nerds, and 30 more than if I'm on the road, no biting curbs. Professor Foods, you're fighting for survival. Making wars, models won't happen, common as captain rivals. Inquisition is governors and secretaries of state. Got statements on their tables like ribeye steak. With no care, blood dripping. They eat black thread. Foreigners wearing English badges, pretending they're heirs to the bastards that state Muslim Al-Aqsa. Sailor blood from after horses, raw service agua. Demons search when stealing pioneers and organs. Psychiatry, death industry, to start selling black horses. And half-full coffins, cause legs are missing, killing stateless people, cancer won't even see remission. More lives matter. Black lives don't matter. 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 System, not gonna make myself no victim. Run down and kick them off, educate oneself and flip them. All those big titles of nationality strips them. Must drip reality in order to really grip them. In this third dimensional illusion, organize chaos confusion, stealing your protection, mental intrusion, universal law, declaration of the angel, I self-law and master, from the rooftop to the basement, root beat to the spaceship, ever since all creation, celestial foundation, ocean floor to the ranges, to the mountain tip, to the cosmic infinite. Basically, we are way above the shit. In other words, get in tune with spirit, take a breath and accept mental polarities in the rhythm called resonance, vibration, cause and effect. More lives matter. Black lives don't matter. 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 More lives matter. I'm bringing on the sound of. It gets protected, but protected from the land law. If my perspective was directed to replay, all the rules that I replay, so they want to catch on. On to the next one. No pretend we're running down. You said my cat cross. Can't believe I'm talking that. Can't believe I'm talking cross. Trayvon, Michael Brown, after the bang. The afterlife, visiting the class wrong. Who they really want to see with the crown on high and the cards on free? I am free and nothing is but your land or your country to see through inalienable rights. The insatiable delight of knowing thyself and bringing all injustice to light. What the fight is your claim, make your fight for the bright. I'm the mic in the night. Foresight for you to realize that, All lives matter. Black lives don't matter. All lives matter. Like black lives don't matter. All lives matter. Like black lives don't matter. All lives matter. Like black lives don't matter. Birthday. Extra flow. Chic, Island Moor. Release for. Shalom David, look. Check it. They say they want to learn, they only debate, representing the truth, trust me, they only count the great, any nationality before you question my estate. I'm not a minority, why you so late? Majority rules, here comes the test back, that's my hand in the form of a C on the chest, that's a boom that is bad like a moon and a crest. Major forever, infinite right there. Major for birth, that's a seed in process. I'm a Moor, that is easy to digest. Competent, never terroridian. That is my land, never taken. Secret traditions, petitions for what you're not Jamaican. North Milan, support for. Everybody needs more. If you plead for, following the Apostle Bishop before. I see the unseen more before. More back. Canaanland. They say they want to learn, playing classes are too long. Don't want it on the phone call, energy too strong. Get it from the wrong source, now they way off course. Think they must be Muslim and give up on all sports. Should give up the red meat, must give up on all pork. Won't be yelling hot out when the bottles are uncorked. Eating with the spoon, you fork for tuning. Eating humble pie, no ego ballooning. Samson 2 caterpillars, got a cocooning as the full moon hung spiral energy moving. Up through the crown chakra, energy shooting until we upload classes before live YouTubing. 16,000 subscribers, 20% consuming, 80% troll pretending to be tuned in. Comment on every video, pushing the thumbs down. We'll push the link when we live just like a clown. Pouring in the incompetence, always debating. Dissing to Ali but won't give their location. His image on the black banner, that's the vacation. Just get him out of here, Yusuf yells in frustration. We know they're playing games, we're not berating. Calling 911 charlatans penetrating. In defense of prophets and mothers abused. And newly awakened Moors, amused and confused. and love, Moors. Peace and love to everybody tuned in worldwide. You are now tuned in to MHHS Eyes Wide Open, Blog Talk Radio, Sons of Allah. I am Mizraim, I left L, along with my brethren, Cujo, Adwo, L. Peace, Moor.
Peace, peace, Moor. Islam. Islam to all the Moors worldwide. We're here. We're here. We're here.
We here, bro.
We're here.
I mean, I don't know if I'm gonna ever get tired of saying it, you know, but damn, we be getting the best days, bro. Third Thursday, bro.
I know.
You know?
I said that earlier. Straight.
Yeah, you said it, man. But man, like it's a lot to unpack with this particular date, you know, and the times that we in, just in general. But before we do that, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge, you know, on the divine side, on the mathematical side, always remember, family listening, September, the word September means 7. And you know, that's a very special number to Moors and all Moors, even of the offshoot, quote unquote, Asiatic groups. You know, the 7 is the God number. And even before that, you know what I mean? Like, you know, if we could go back tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years, and it was always something divine about that 7 number. So we here. We're 5 days away from the autumn equinox, though, right? September 16th, quote unquote. You know, and I just first off want to again give much props for that album, Moabite Sons. That song Leaves Fall. I just feel like the timing is right. You know what I'm saying? Leaves Fall, going into the autumn season. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So y'all brothers has some prudence or some foresight with that, because that's a tune. You know what I mean? I mean, the season of tune is among us. So if you don't mind, for everybody, just for the record, can you please tell them how they can obtain that? You know, how that vibe came about. I mean, I appreciate the song. I feel like it's very timely. You know what I mean? And being consistent with autumn, leaves falling. You know, they call it the fall season for that reason. But we know it's the autumn time. We're going into harvest season. So if you don't mind, before we go in, would you take a minute to explain how that song came about and where the people can obtain that whole classic from?
Well, you can get the classic from you can get it at khalifamedia.com, and that's the Moabite Sons album with myself and brother Exodus Bay. And the Leaves Fall came about from, actually, it was a track that he had. It was already called that. And that was the concept that you know, how he started the verse off. I just took his lines and fed off of what he put on, because I had his verse on it when I got the beat, so I sort of cheated. I cheated, you know. So I was able to, but yeah, the concept of it was definitely before autumn. So, you know, brother, I'm gonna ask Brother X about it and do something about it, because even somebody was saying the beat too. You know, the beat, everything. It just has this autumn feel, like it has a real leaves fall feel. You know.
Absolutely.
But yeah, absolutely. Definitely a classic. Definitely a classic. That's one of the Moorish classics there. Leaves Fall. That's a good one.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. And just want to say, man, it's no way you could cheat when you're keeping it real in your rhymes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you guys are talking what Moors relate to. You know, on on a character level, I don't know. I don't want to say on a conscious level in a sense.
Yeah.
I want to say on an informed level. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
About the information, like it's there because we can name 100,000 MCs who be lying in their raps. You know what I'm saying? But you brothers are not doing that. Y'all just speaking facts. So instead of getting on there talking about how many people you shot, you know what I'm saying, or stabbed, you know what I mean? You just giving us bars we could chill to and maybe clean the house to, or you know what I mean, vibe out to, ride out to, whatever it may be. You know? There's a couple of groups on that track where it's like, hold on, I want to turn up and work out. You know what I'm saying? I be trying. You know what I'm saying? But real facts, bro. So it's diversified. I like that. I like that. Yeah, man. So
it was fun. It was fun.
Just a fun fact from the book.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Moore.
Oh no, go ahead, Mark.
Nah, I ain't want to cut your wisdom.
Oh no, I'm straight. Yeah, I'm straight. You go ahead, yeah.
All right. Let's say that then. So, all right, just from the jump, 5 days away from the equinox, I was just thinking on a divine level, going into the equinox, 5 days away, like, I don't want to challenge anybody's divinity or spirituality, but this is what I'm going to do. I know that I'm going to take these next 5 days to channel the 5 principles every day, even more, like focus on one. I mean, it's always those 5 principles every day. But if there's a way to take it to the next level, I'm trying to channel that for the next 5 days, going right into the equinox. You know what I mean? I just feel like it's timely, So Friday is the day of love anyway, or a holy day anyway. And one of the first of the 5 principles. So having some prudence in that sense, I feel like that would be a dope, you know what I mean? I don't know if ritual is the right word, but I would say like a spiritual raising of the vibration to just channel those energies for the next 5 days and forever, you know what I'm saying? But just to turn it up a notch because, there is a lot of, yes, and shout out to everybody in the chat. Before, I hope I did say that in the beginning, as this is being broadcasted on MHHS Blog Talk Radio. This is also simultaneously being ran on Canaanland Moor's YouTube page. And shout out to everybody that's listening via both venues, right? So shout out to the chat here on Canaanland Moor's YouTube page. They also mentioned, Sharush L mentioned that, in fact and indeed, on Monday is a full moon too. So, everything is aligning right. And that's a good thing, so it's just about the energy we're going to do with it as individuals and or collective, either way it goes. Islam to that for sure, and I just wanted to say again, we find ourselves here on a significant day, September 16th, 2021. Just a fun fact from the jump. I know it's some stuff you want to share. We're going to get into, and it's crazy because I told you I was looking for my J.A. Rogers book with those images of the Asiatics of so-called China, like where they get that phenotype from. And bro, all day I could not find that book, so I just had to, yield and say I don't know why I can't find it, but nonetheless, it's in there. But here in North America, what is significant about this day is that September 16th, 1782 is the first time that the, quote, Great Seal of the United States, quote unquote, was ever used. And the reason it was used by Thompson was to verify signatures so that George Washington can negotiate an exchange of prisoners. So to me, it just sounds like there was definitely some human trafficking going on when negotiations had to be made. But again, correlating that back to J.A. Rogers, Moors were the dominant party of the slave traders. Even though they don't tell it like that, all true and divine records will show you that that is in fact the case in the matter of slavery. So I found that significant because, keeping it divine and national. Oh, hold up. I don't know what that was. I don't know if that was me, you, whatever. But I just heard something go through.
Yeah, I heard it too.
Yeah, well, at any rate, the sister was like, I thank God for that. Praise Allah. Let's just leave it at that. You know what I'm saying? Here come the trolls. Here come the trolls. All right, well, anyway. But, so at any rate, you know what I mean? It's a significant time because September 16th was the first time the Great Seal was used in the sense of under the United States jurisdiction. And, Moors have a major part in that. We know that we've been branded with those names, Indians and whatnot. But if you go back and refine the knowledge, you know that they got a lot of the information from the Iroquois. We showed them, how to run government and how to set it up and the functions thereof. And a lot of people don't know, in North America, who they call Hiawatha, he was like a prophet in a sense. I don't know if anybody has any information to debunk that or challenge that, but from what I studied, there's something called algic studies, ALGIC, algic studies, and that is studies that the word algic is a hybrid word for studies between the region of the Alleghenies and the Atlantic, right? So all the indigenous people in that region, from the Atlantic to the Alleghenies, is what the Europeans, Schoolcraft and all of them, would call algic studies. But we know from doing the knowledge and the research that, these weren't not Indians. However, the Algonquians, these Moors, definitely had structured government in a League of Nations 300 years before the Europeans did. 300 years, at least documented. Maybe longer than that, but at least 300 years before. So when we're looking at these things, we can see that what they're celebrating, what they're doing in these significant dates actually wouldn't even be if it wasn't for what they learned from the indigenous people and or Moors. You understand? Yeah, so that's a real fact. So now, being as though it's September 16th and the first day in 1782 that the Great Seal, quote unquote, was ever used, we can fast forward a few years later to 1789, and this is what they call on September 17th Constitution Day, because that was the day that it was signed in so-called Philadelphia and whatnot. So again, just thinking about the significance of these days and these divine and national timing, there's always something significant about when we do these broadcasts. So that being said, I just wanted to start it off with those two fun facts, bro. And I know you wanted to get into something about the Asiatics. We could take it there too, or if you want to add on to that for starters, however you want to take it, bro.
He's more. But I would just say that right and exact with regard to recognizing the alignment as far as when Sons of Allah happens, and the fact that we pick third Thursdays, and every third Thursday, 80% of the time, something's going on around the third Thursday. So it's a testimony to the divine aspect of even what we do, and how connected to divine it is, for us to be, one of the initial branches out of MHHS, Eyes Wide Open, and still being here and having the longevity. It could be all part of the third Thursday ritual. If it was on a Monday, stuff might not even be going on still. You know what I mean? It could be something with the frequency that we're, when it was selected to drop, it was all part of the plan so that we could have some longevity in this. You even remember how the third Thursday thing came about?
Right. You know what? I remember even my mom presenting the idea, you know what I mean? And at that time it was like we've been doing the Tuesday blog, and we was doing that every Tuesday, going in. And then on Wednesday we would travel up to Manhattan Island, also called New York, or Manhattan, or Harlem. And so Wednesdays wasn't good. At that time, I can't remember what I had going on Mondays. I usually was preparing for Tuesday, you know what I mean, in some way or another. And then Friday, it was like, pre-pandemic, I'm like, I don't know about Friday. And then, I don't know. It just Thursday just sounded right. The third Thursday, and that's how it went. Like, but it was definitely presented by Mother Annie E to be like, yo, if y'all want to do this, and I was like, absolutely, why not? Every third Thursday for sure. And when that happened, I wasn't looking 8 years into the future to say, oh yeah, well on this day in 2021, it's gonna line up like this. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's what I'm saying.
You know what I mean? Like, 'cause we started in 2014, and it just felt like one of those things that it was just everything around it was just right. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. At that time, it was like, all right, yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, because back then there was still different classes going on Fridays that we would attend from time to time. So, you know what I mean? At that time, I just felt like, nah, because we might end up going to this class on a Friday. I didn't want that to conflict, and you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I don't know, man. It's just Allah's plan, bro. Mm-hmm. And it's turning out pretty well. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like you said, I don't know if these topics would be the same if it was on another day. We've been on that since 2014 and had minimum cancellations or postponements. Right. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Where if you consider the time span from 2014 to now, and that's why when people be hitting me like, yo, this person said this person said that, I'm like, well, you obviously missed a lot of our broadcasts and blogs, because you know what I'm saying? Like, it's nothing that anybody can say if you really consider what we've been putting out there, you know what I mean, that is trumping that, so I don't know, man. I'm just thankful to be doing this. It's been a great experience, and, keeping it going. That's what it is.
Islam.
Islam to that, Yeah. So, yeah, man. So,
yeah,
go ahead and say that more.
No, I said that's what's up. That's what's up.
No doubt about it. So that's how it just unfolded in that seed blossom, Mm-hmm. And between then and now, so much things have unfolded. It's like still growing branches,
Yeah.
And it's all good. I'm here for it,
Right.
I'm definitely here for it. Now I'm trying to find something in this song here, Watch the Book. I don't want to go in too hard on this, but I wanted to make mention of it because, if anybody is into the culture of literature and different classics, everybody should know that on an indigenous level, the Song of Hiawatha is a very key piece of literature. To me, it's like one of the only books that I've read that actually have indigenous American words in it, like, and gives you some sort of definition of it in the back. You know, it's a very good read, but it's poetry, and it's crazy. You have to read it a certain way at sometimes because, like, I mean, when I say it's poetry, I mean straight bars, bro. Like straight bars. You know what I mean? Like it could go over your head though, depending on how you read it, because how you say something and how you write something, you know, is different.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's and I think Moors would appreciate it because it's really a dedication to peace, which we know is one of the 5 principles. You know what I'm saying? And if you really on that frequency or on that vibration, you know, it's good read. It's a good read. But it's a few times in here where, because, you know, like I said, among the indigenous cultures, Hiawatha is equivalent to Jesus. You know what I'm saying? I don't mean that in any funny type of way, but like seriously, you know, that legend of Hiawatha is like that serious, you know, in indigenous cultures of America, though, you know what I mean, or the Algonquian, you know, Moors. So, like, you know, again, I'm not trying to sit here promote be an Indian. I'm just saying, you know, this is a cultural aspect, literature, poetry, bars. I'm telling you that it's in there. It's in there. But at one point, he mentions Moorlands. And then he goes into like all of the different tribes. It's a lot. I guess I should just leave that read for the individuals, you know what I mean? For everybody to get into themselves, you know? Or maybe, I was looking for the Moorland joint, but I'm going to just read this because it sounds like it's in tune with the times. About autumn, it says, okay, by the signal of the peace pipe to the mountain of the prairie, to the great red pipe stone quarry, and they stood there on the meadow with their weapons and their war gear, painted like the leaves of autumn, painted like the sky of morning, wildly glaring at each other, in their faces stern defiance, in their hearts the feuds of ages, the hereditary hatred, the ancestral thirst of vengeance. Gitchi Manito, the mighty, the creator of the nations, looked upon them with compassion, with fraternal love and pity, looked upon their wrath and wrangling, but as quarrels among children, but as feuds and fights of children. Over them he stretched his right hand to subdue their stubborn nature, to allay their thirst and fever. By the shadow of his right hand spoke to them with voice of majestic as the sound of far-off waters falling into deep abysses, warning, sitting, spake in this wise, oh my children, my poor children, listen to the words of wisdom, listen to the words of warning from the lips of the great spirit, from the master of life who made you. I have given you lands to hunt, I have given you streams to fish in, I have given you bear and bison, I have given you roe and reindeer, I have given you brant and beaver, filled the marshes full of wildfowl, filled the rivers full of fishes. Why then are you not contented? Why then will you hunt each other? I am weary of your quarrels, weary of your wars and bloodshed, weary of your prayers for vengeance, of your wranglings and dissensions. All your strength is in your union, all your danger is in discord. Therefore be at peace henceforth, and as brothers live together. I will send a prophet to you, a deliverer of the nations, who shall guide you and shall teach you, who shall toil and suffer with you. If you listen to his counsels, you will multiply and prosper. If his warning pass unheeded, you will fade away and perish. Bathe now in the stream before you. Watch the war print from your faces. Watch the blood stains from your fingers. Bury your war clubs and your weapons. I'm gonna leave that there because it goes in, but I'm just giving you an idea that this whole book is about peace. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? That's really what it's about. It's about peace. Oh, this was the part I was looking for. The Song of Hiawatha. And I gotta say this because it mentions Moors. So I have to say this. This is why I was looking in this book. It says the Song of Hiawatha. You know, real talk. That's what, because we was mentioning, you know, Constitutional Day, you know what I'm saying? And how they really got it from the indigenous people of America, right? So I just want to say, this is how he starts off. He says, should you ask me whence these stories, whence these legends and traditions with the odors of the forest, with the dew and damp of meadows? Basically, he's saying, if you asking me where these stories came from, this is where he got them. So he says, should you ask me whence these stories, whence these legends and traditions, with the odors of the forest, with the dew and damp of meadows, with the curling smoke of wigwams, with the rushing of great rivers, with the frequent repetitions and their wild reverberations, as of thunder in the mountains, I should answer, I should tell you, from the forest and the prairies, from the great lakes of the Northland, from the land of the Ojibways, from the land of the Dakotas, from the mountains, Moors, and Finland, where the Huron, the Shushuga, feeds among the reeds and rushes. So when he said that, from the mountains, the Moors, we could take that two ways. I don't know if he means the land or the people. You know what I'm saying? But it says it right there on page 6 in the Song of Hiawatha that this is where it came from. You know what I'm saying? From the mountains and the Moors. So I don't know if that's divine inspiration or people, but that's what it says. So that's why I was saying, correlating back to Constitution Day and all of that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That when you consider that it came from the Algonquins, and this Song of Hiawatha is saying that it came from the mountains and the Moors and Finlands, and you know, I'm just looking at that like, hold on, this is something more there. You know what I mean? Pun intended. So, you know, saying that to say that we know that we have correlations to Asiatic, to indigenous people of America, etc. But you know, just as a segue into what you wanted to get into about what's going on in different parts of the world, or how we're correlating or not. You know what I mean? I'm gonna yield the floor over to you if you want to take it there or you want to add on.
It's a lot more.
It's not.
So this morning I got sent a video. My pop sent me a video about a Chinese mother teaches daughter that black people have the following issues. It's probably about 10 minutes or something. There's some narration because it's our people presenting. You know, they found this thing of this Chinese lady talking to her daughter, but one of the interesting things in it is that we have conversations very limited on the whole historical whatever. So he sent me the thing, and then I had responded to him that, you know, this is right up the alley, you know, of what you know everything's about, you know, because we know that people don't call themselves colors, you know, Chinese don't call themselves yellow, and Africans who we know, they agree that they're not black, they're descendants of Africa or whatever. So, you know, how's this thing coming up? You know, it seems like this colonial mindset, you know, from Carl Linnaeus and Johann Blumenbach and Francois Benaire is a real thing for our people. So he comes back with color designation is not what it's about. Whether they call us black or African or whatever, the important issue is the response of us. Of course, they don't call themselves yellow because they view it as derogatory. And I agree with them because there really is no yellow skin color. So maybe we should take a page out of their book and stop referring to ourselves as black and demand it from others. As you know, a Chinese person generally is called Chinese except when someone is being openly offensive. And that was like, that was the head blown emoji. That he went there. Not that he shouldn't go there, but it was a vocalized thing to him that, you know, they're actually kind of right. Why are we calling ourselves black? So it led to me sending it to Miss this morning to say, yeah, let's take a listen to this and, you know, have some discussions about what is this really about? Is this really about them not liking us, or is there something else going on? Do they know something? Are they trying to imply something? But before we go into that, there was little information that could escape this connection. You know what I mean? There's so much stuff when you start looking it up. That's why we played the Eugene Adams at the beginning with the Africans in Asia video, the oldie but goodie. That if you're talking about Asia generally, we already know that we're dealing with our people. And they know that the ancestors of them, you know, the ancient civilizations before the people who are there now, they didn't classify themselves as black. They didn't identify themselves as black. They didn't even go there. You know, these are ideas that are brought about from the scholars near the Americas who call themselves black or whatever, trying to latch themselves on to somebody else's culture, which is really their culture, but they're not calling it by what they should be calling it. No different than, you know, Europeans trying to latch on to some culture that's not theirs. And everybody could look at them and know, well, you guys don't look like Cherokees. They don't look like Indians, according to Trump. You know? So we wanted to just put out some info related to that, and then play this video, because it's interesting how she's coaching how she's coaching them to, or coaching the child to actually stay connected to their national origin. You know what I mean? And not to sway. And then you look at our people and we see them teaching everything but know their culture. But they know, you know what I mean, the best lashes and the best place to get the Fendi and the stuff that means nothing. They know the most about the stuff that means nothing. And the stuff that matters, they know nothing about, and want to know how come we're in the position that we're in. There's a place. Oh, you had anything to interject more before I carry on?
No. I said that's right.
There's so there was Banchiang, Banciang, a little town in northern Thailand. Yeah, I forgot. I have the If anybody wants to see what's going on, you can check the Canaanland Moors page. Check the Canaanland Moors page so we can get some visual up here. So Banchang, town in Northern Ireland, they found these ceramics. What's really remarkable about Banchang is that it gives evidence of a people and a culture that was technologically advanced as any other in the world. Indeed, they had a fully developed Bronze Age metallurgy, but they didn't use it to make weapons. They knew sophisticated building techniques, but did not build great structures. As a matter of fact, they took on none of the trappings of other advanced civilizations with sophisticated technology. Even their social organization was easy. They lived in villages with little social hierarchy. Question: why did they live like that so simply? The answer seems to be religion, organized, dogmatic religion. From earliest times, religion was the impetus and driving force for the building of the first large structures, temples. Around these temples, homes and businesses were built. Around these temples, homes and businesses, walls were built. Thus, they were the first cities created. And so it appears that the late ascension of these Southeast Asian people was due to lack of this requirement, an all-encompassing unifying religion, because true to form, once the great Indian religions of Buddhism and Hinduism had been introduced to and accepted by these civilizations, they took off. They were all devoutly religious, and all of their great structures had religious contexts. Now we're putting that out to also tie in again with the whole concept of the equinox and the solstices, and how there's places in the world where you can go to partake in the celestial festivities on the earth plane. That the moon's light is going to shine on something and it's going to reflect off something else, and then something mystical is going to happen. Or the sun is going to shine through something and make a shadow on something else that's going to have you really wondering what were these ancient cultures about. They would say what they would say now, religion, but we know that it's creed. We know that Noble Drew Ali was on point when he was talking about bringing us back to the true old-time religion. And the oldest form of religion is star worship. The oldest form of religion is astrology, honoring what the universe has provided in whatever way that it's been provided. And this is something that's going through all the different cultures. Right? This is something that's going through all the different cultures. Now, as we continue to go on, historically, the first great Southeast Asian kingdom that we know anything about is the Khmer Kingdom of Funan. Funan was a Cambodian kingdom located around the Mekong Delta. We know very little about it except that it was a powerful seafaring and trading state. Who they say the seafarers are? There's only one people that they call seafaring and trading. This is evidenced by the discovery of Roman, Chinese, and Indian goods found there during archaeological excavations. The capital is thought to initially have been located in Vidyapura near modern Phnom, Cambodia. The Funanese Empire reached its furthest extent under the rule of Fa Sima in the early 3rd century AD, right? 3rd century AD. At this time, Funan extended as far south as Malaysia, as far west as Burma. The Funanese established a strong system of mercantilism and commercial monopolies, that would become the pattern for future empires in the region. Fan Shi Man expanded the Funan fleet and improved the Funanese bureaucracy, establishing a quasi-feudal system that left local customs and identities largely intact, particularly in the empire's farthest reaches. Now, we already know that it wasn't a feudal system, because that's definitely not the venue of these individuals here. When you look at these individuals here, remember, we're talking 3rd century AD. 3rd century AD, this is what they have as the depictions of the people of that culture. The quote-unquote Indian, Hindu, Sanskrit, Buddhist, Asiatic culture. Clearly, these aren't black people. Clearly, these aren't black people. Clearly, these aren't yellow people. The Mon of Thailand, clearly, you look at the features. These are people that we see, some people who look like this right now. They're supposed to be Asians. Everybody has that one individual who they know that. Where you get eyes like that? Why you have Asian eyes and you're a brother? Why are your eyes Asian? Asian like that. The real Asian eyes, not just the squinty eyes, the real Asian eyes. Why do you have those?
Yeah.
Right? Again, the Mon of Thailand, the Mani of Thailand, the Funan of Cambodia. The Thai were a Mongol people who had already emigrated from southern China during the 9th and 10th century and had first founded only small settlements which were under Khmer hegemony. In the beginning of the 13th century, they gradually succeeded in becoming free of the reign of Khmer, who had previously conquered the Mons. Now, when some Asians are looking like this, you know that these aren't yellow people. You know these aren't the people who we see today talking about they're the Asians. Right. I remember it's you know, the hair that lets you know, the lips that lets you know, the nose that lets you know, the contour of the face, the body shape. All these things let you know how directly connected we are to each other as far as the Asiatics on the planet, which again goes back to Drew Ali and the uniting of Asia, going back to Drew Ali and all these are Muslims, and he's talking about everybody across the planet that all these are Muslims. What's he telling us? What aren't we realizing? Right? And again, once the people have the mindset of their Negro black color, they can't realize anything. Nothing's gonna make sense to them. Right? No, Fez culture is not some Turkish thing. Fez is not some Masonic thing. This is worldwide. And everybody who's Asiatic, everybody who's Muslim is familiar with each other's culture. Right? All of them are familiar with each other's culture. So we wanted to give this idea of who the Asians were so we can have a perspective when this lady starts talking about who the blacks are. And the point that she's making to her daughter about these so-called people that call themselves black. Right?
Now, can I just say this before you go in with that video?
Oh yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Can we also keep in mind? No doubt. But can we also keep in mind that I believe you brought this out maybe about 2014, 15. I heard about it through a video you did. You shared it with everybody. And it was about how the quote-unquote Chinese in South Africa were going to be labeled as black.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to keep that out there, like remind you that was a political thing in South Africa. You could probably still pull a video up today with them going to be labeling the Chinese, so-called Chinese, that were living in South Africa. They were getting hit with the brand of black. So I never forgot that. So I don't know if everybody else remembers that. But also, can you play it in a way where it could definitely come through clear on the blog as well, as far as the audio?
Yeah, we're about to do a test right now and see if we get anything. So just let me know if you're hearing it.
Say that.
What's up, family? This is your man, not your boy, bringing you another gold nugget that you can pick up or you can kick it aside. Now, I want to talk about this video that Maya, who had did a video about this Chinese woman teaching her daughter how to be a racist, how to hate people who are African descent, and that they, who are Chinese, have the allegiance and the power and have the pride for their country.
I still can't believe that in 2021, things like this are still happening. A year ago, I did a video about a Chinese man teaching African kids on how to insult themselves and the entire black people in the world.
What's it?
Believe that in 2021, things like this are still happening. A year ago, I did a video about a Chinese man teaching African kids on how to insult themselves and the entire black people in the world.
What's it?
So what it's saying there is, I am a black monster, and then they have nigger in brackets. And this is what he had them yelling. And I have low IQ. I'm a black monster, and I have low IQ. For the people listening on the blog talk that are going to see this without the visual, right? So they're setting up this thing that Asians are racist against black people, right? Asians are racist, Chinese are racist against, dark-skinned people is where they're going with this thing.
Yeah.
Fast forward.
Oh, go ahead, Moore.
No. I didn't want to cut this off, but I didn't even peek this part when I watched it the first time. I just want to make that clear. You ain't got to rewind it back, but I missed that part. I don't know how I missed that part, that's what he was telling them to say, or whoever was telling them to say.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah.
2021, there is a video of a Chinese mom teaching the daughter how to discriminate or hate black people.
宝宝昨天在餐厅跟你说话的是一个什么人？
黑人。
是
So don't pay attention to the Chinese. I'm just gonna read everything while I'm just gonna narrate it while it's playing, and then we can discuss it after.
Discriminate or hate black people.
宝宝昨天在餐厅跟你说话的是一个什么人？
Baby, who is this person talking to you at the restaurant today?
黑人
是叔叔还是阿姨？
阿姨
你以前见过他吗？
在餐厅见过几次。
见过几次？是这样子的，公主，
黑人
是叔叔还是阿姨？
There is a video of a Chinese mom teaching the daughter how to discriminate or hate black people.
宝宝昨天在餐厅跟你说话的是一个什么人？
So who was the person talking to you at the restaurant today? The child responds,
黑人
a black person.
是叔叔还是阿姨？
阿姨
Uncle or auntie? Auntie. So I guess she's asking male or female, right?
你以前见过他吗？
在餐厅见过几次。
Have you ever seen her before? I've seen her several times in the
见过
restaurant.
几次？是这样子的，公主，就昨天妈妈跟你说，你可以
Here's the thing, princess. This is what I told you yesterday. You can say hello to her.
跟他打招呼，可以跟他说话。
You can talk to her.
其实这是不对的。
Actually, this is wrong.
为什么呢？因为这些黑人
Why? Because all these
有
blacks,
很不好的习
they
惯，
have very bad
很不
habits.
礼貌，有
They
时
are
候
very
呢，在我们
impolite
中国，
sometimes. And in China, they sometimes do a lot of
有时候
things
在国外做了很多去伤害中国人的事情。
abroad to hurt Chinese people.
我们是什么人啊？
中国
Who are we? The child responds, Chinese people.
人，妈妈，我可以说我们是中国人，要保
Mom, can I tell you? We are Chinese people. To protect China.
护好中国，要爱惜中国，知道
Cherish China. Got it?
吗？
知道，所以呢，我们不能跟陌生人说话，
So she's telling her we can't talk to strangers.
不能吃陌生人的东西，不能跟陌生人
You can't eat strangers' food. You can't chat with strangers.
聊天，不能跟陌生人走。黑人我们更要防
You can't go with strangers. We should guard against black people even more.
范他们，好吗？
好的，
我们是，
中国人，
我们爱，
我们爱中国，
We are Chinese. We love China.
对，我们爱中国，爱五星红旗。
爱我
We love our 5-star flag. I don't know if you have any interjection up to now, Moor, or if you want to just carry on.
Yo, this is crazy. I mean, all right, I'm looking at it two ways, right? Like, I see what's happening. Her mother or whoever this older woman is training this young girl to start to not, quote unquote, like, quote unquote, black people. That is what she's putting in her head, while simultaneously telling her about how they love their nationality, their 5-pointed flag. I would say that's one thing we have in common with China is the 5-pointed flag. But my main question at this particular point, right, like I know on the national level, black is not the proper word for our people's identity. I know that. But at this point, the question in my mind is like, is, I don't want to say it's race. I mean, we know racism is one race, human race. Okay, we got that. But it's like discrimination or learned, innate, is it a taught thing? Like all these Europeans who don't apparently like us, is that their genetic makeup? Is this a learned behavior? Like, are they privately being taught this? I think everybody naturally would prefer their own over outsiders.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say that would make them necessarily racist.
Right.
Like even in the jungle, or you know what I'm saying, like lions, cheetahs, jaguars, whatever, they're all cats, but naturally they prefer their own first. And I think that's a given. But like when, as human beings, right, if we're supposed to be human family and the most civilized in the universe and all of this. Like, at what point do we realize, or do we come to the conclusion, like, maybe this is not a natural feeling. Maybe this is just a learned behavior through experience.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know, bro.
Yeah.
To me, this makes me wonder, like, to everybody who does not like a certain type of people, is it a programming or is it through experience where you're like, nah, these type of people are like this, right? But then you can't classify everybody. You know what I'm saying? Because, like, I don't know if I should go in like this now before we get through the video. And I'm not trying to speak for everybody or anybody else. Like, these people, like, this little girl, to me, this little girl is innocent, right?
Yeah.
She's being taught this young.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? She doesn't really feel like that.
Yeah.
She's being trained, right? So the thing is, like, is this for her, this is going to be a learned behavior. This is social engineering and programming. But genuinely, in her youthful years, she does not feel like that.
Mm-hmm.
So again, like I'm saying, it just makes me wonder how many other people are being taught like this. And then, I know in some instances, you got to blame it on the schools too, because I'm looking at the background and it's making me wonder, like, is she in school being taught this? Like, I see mathematical, you know what I'm saying? Like, stuff, like, the background looks like kindergarten
school,
or something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, they got animals, like, they're teaching them what a bird is, what a penguin is, what a frog is, what a bat is. Like, this is like kindergarten, first grade. Right, and she literally being taught this in the school. On the left side, there's numbers, right? They're teaching them how to count. Like, so my concern is this being taught in a school, right? And is this why everybody needs their own schools? Like, I don't know, bro. It's just crazy.
What you said is the whole idea of it not being racism that's taught. They're just being taught to love their culture more than anybody else's, especially a culture that calls itself a fiction. If they said don't talk to blacks, but then on the other side, they're saying, well, don't talk to Congolese and don't talk to whatever. Then I can see it being a race-related hatred type of thing. But like you're saying, they get them young, so they're innocent, and then you could put whatever you want in them. But from the perspective of there's no such thing as, or there's an illusion out there called, these people called black people, and then when you research them, all they do is do BS. Then we're teaching you to love your own, love your culture. Don't adopt theirs, because adopting theirs would mean the downfall of yours. But like you're saying, there's two sides of it. It could be taken from the side of they're teaching some type of race superiority, trample all the other races, and then the other side is like, well, maybe they're just for their culture. You know what I mean? And you can't knock a culture being for their culture. You could knock stateless, trying to rep some stateless forever as if that's a position.
Right.
What I mean?
And I'm looking at it like, I know for sure fact, all modern, for lack of a better word, let me just say modern Asiatic, like people who look like them, like, they're not all against us, yo.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I know it can exist, it could exist in any nationality. They could be like, you know what, F the world, it's all about my nation, whatever. Okay, but you got to have good standing with international relationships, right?
and international just means other national. It's not a bad thing, right? It doesn't have to be any more than that, right? Like you just got good business relations or whatever it is. But on that note, like when they're dealing with other nationals keyword, from my experience, yes, there are some who discriminate or they're not familiar with, Moors being free and living a lodial and entering into like contracts from a non-inferior position. Some of them are not used to that. But then there's others that know, and they're giving more opportunities, I'm just saying from my perspective in life, I've seen it with my own eyes. Like, I know Asiatics, Chinese who are not on this, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're literally in so many different ways, whether that be through real estate ventures. I know that's a whole nother thing. We could argue, well, they ain't got no right here. All right, cool. But, business ventures and rental properties, like they're giving people, opportunities. Some of the ones that I know personally, and I don't, you know what I'm saying? So I can't still, even with this, like I can't see it like all China people are like this. So-called Chinese, the Manchurian, we know that, but I still don't see them all like this.
Yeah.
It just makes me wonder. You know what I mean? Because, again, looking at the background of the image you have on Canaanland Moor's YouTube page right now, not only is, things like a frog, a piglet, a bird, a penguin, a puppy, and then they're teaching them how to count. But take note that that's English. They're teaching them, like that is in the background written in so-called English.
Yeah.
But they're speaking in Chinese.
Right.
So, like, is this a part of how they learn to deal with the English language and still keep their national pride? Because if it's a matter of language, the word black technically doesn't apply, and other nations don't feel sorry about that fact of language. Mm-hmm. That, like, look, it's not the people, it's the word, but on another note, they're training them to look at a certain people through a word and disassociate with them from the human family. Yeah. I don't know. It's just mad things to think about looking at the image on the background right now, like really trying to get the picture, you know what I'm saying? And what's being said. So, I don't know. So far, that's what I'm thinking, bro. Like, I don't know how to.
Yeah.
I know. It's a question.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Is this a learned behavior or is it
or is this a
yeah.
It's love.
Yeah. It's love.
And if anybody else, take notes for whenever we push one so you can give your input on this thing.
Oh yeah, can we get that out the way real quick? Because
oh yeah, go ahead,
for
man.
those listening via the internet, for those listening via the internet at 11 o'clock, you will not be able to call in and ask your question verbally. So if you want to ask anything or add on, make sure that you call in as well. So if at any point you want to add something or verbally add on and come out of the chat, nothing wrong with the chat. You could call in too. And the number is 563-999-3403. And it's scrolling at the bottom of the screen on YouTube. So just know that you could call in, but after 11 o'clock, you will not be able to call in. So just keep that in mind. If y'all going to rock with us through the last hour, after 11, we'd be on more than likely to 12, but after 11, you can't call in, just for the record. So my fault, I just wanted to get that out the way before time starts flying and be like, before we know it, we're here in 90 seconds before the top season. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Just take that moment right now to the chat. Y'all can call in. All right.
Yes.
Indeed.
爱中国，
对，我们爱中国，爱五星红旗。
爱五星红旗。
You know what? I have identified the problem of Africa-China relationship. And if you don't know, I'm going to tell you. the whole partnership, oh, we are working together, China, Africa are friends. No, there's nothing like that, because there is nothing like a mutual respect between Africa and China. You know why? Because when you come to Africa, Chinese people disrespect Africans in Africa. Recently, I found a video of a Chinese man tying a Rwandese, beating him, and no one said anything about it. He got scot-free. The highest thing we could do is to deport him. But something like that can never ever be done in China. I have lived in China. I speak fluent Chinese. I can even switch this video and start doing this video in Chinese, but I don't think it's very necessary. So I really know what I'm talking about. Believe me, when the person posted this video, the comments under these videos were disheartening. I'll read some of them to you. Some of you can't speak Chinese, so I'm just going to read in Chinese and I'm going to translate what they were saying. Someone said, "Jiang de muchin yue duo yue hao." This kind of mom with this kind of mindset, the more we have them, the better. Another one is saying, "Zhongguo hao mama," a good Chinese mom. And then another one is saying, "Zhongguo hao mama, jiang jiao hao," like a very good Chinese mom. This kind of teachings is the best. I'm going to continue because I don't even know like what to say. Somebody saying, "Jianzan Zhongguo hao muqin, Zhongguo hao jie." It's ridiculous to be reading this. See, it's hard, man. It's really sad, man. I don't know what to say because I don't even believe that I'm doing such kind of videos.
我们更要防范他们，好吗？
Do you guys really know what triggered all this hate for black people living in China? Because China was considering of giving a permanent resident permit to all foreigners living in China, which I think it's a good thing, but unfortunately,
Look, you know the ads.
Unfortunately, in the minds of so many Chinese people, the word foreigner is equal to black people. And this has resulted in so much hate for black people living in China.
Now, I find it interesting how they never said African once, but then here's this so-called African with African shirt and all that stuff talking about black people, where we know that that comes from over here. So when we talk about the mindset now, you know what I mean? Like, so where are they at now? Because if you know, if we go back to Drew Ali with the uniting of Asia and all that, then Africa's in Asia, and Asians have just as much jurisdiction as Africans have, if that's what they're claiming, they're African. Because I'm pretty sure Asian is older than Africa. I'm pretty sure Asia is way older than Africa. So just on that alone, and then you look at the atmosphere, you see who's acting on the superior claim and who's acting on the subordinate claim. Who's getting the BS end of the stick? Because if he can identify that Rwandans are getting mistreated and all these different people are getting mistreated, but then he's identifying them as black, which really only comes from over here, which is also, you know, going back to the same thing of the brands and the fact that if they're calling themselves the brand when they're not the brand, isn't it the same thing as over here? With our people calling themselves brands when they're not that, and then get abused, and then they're complaining about the abuse, not correcting themselves out of the status of the brand. But it's interesting that the argument is emotional, just like the Negro, black, colored people over here. If you have anything to add, more.
Yeah, I was thinking, like you just said, you know, when I was listening to it, I'm like, I hear the accent, the so-called, you know, African accent, but what do him and the little girl have in common, right? Like from the background of the picture, when she had the animals behind her and how to count, I seen the teens like they both learned to speak English. So like this wouldn't even really be a conversation in their native tongue because like black really doesn't exist. Like
Doesn't
you know
even
what
exist,
I mean? Like that's not the
yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's like so now you know what I mean? Like you said, this is over here, but you know, that is one of the languages that's spoken out of the many here in America, North America, South America, you know. The two most popular languages are English and what they call Spanish. Those are the two most popularly used languages in the Americas. But you can kind of tell who conquered based off of that too, because in the North, whether that be so-called Canada, United States, which we know is really all North America, speaking the same English language in that sense. You know, that's what it is. But you can see like everything in the South America is like Spanish or Latin. You know what I mean? Those are the more popular languages utilized. So what I'm saying is, seeing they both learning that in different continents. He's from, clearly, you can hear his accent from Africa, and the little Chinese girl obviously was from China. But the issue is a situation or a disdain for an English word. That's what I'm seeing. I don't know if anybody else sees it like that, but I see it like that. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. That's just where I'm at.
Islam. Yeah,
Adult supervision says he has a big local following and also among Americans. He has a following. I never heard of him until this.
Yeah. Neither have I. I don't know who he is. But it looks like his thing's Ghana baby, Mr. Ghana baby. So I guess he's near Ghana.
Yeah.
This is near Ghana. You know what I mean? And we know Ghanaians. We know Ghanaians, and they don't play black and stuff like that. They don't know what that is.
Right. You know what I mean? But this is an anglicized, quote unquote, African.
Yeah.
Like that's good.
Big difference.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anglicized in this thing.
Yeah.
So that'll be like equivalent to, you know, a more North America having been, you know, assimilated into colonial ways and accept those colonial ways and have a problem when, you know, it's crazy. Like this shit has so many layers to it as far as the social engineering and programming of, you know, what taps certain people's emotional triggers based off of something that is questionable in the first place. You know, I don't know. It just gets crazy, bro.
Yeah.
But I'm here for it, though.
Islam.
Yeah.
So going back again to this whole thing with the history, the Southeast Asia and southern China ancient skeletal remains represented the earliest inhabitants to be Australoids and Negrito. By the beginning of the present period, the population in China could be differentiated and placed into categories designating Mongoloid in the north, Oceanic in the south. Both of these groups evolved out of common upper Pleistocene substratum as represented by Zhu Yang and Luitian skulls. By at least 2500 BC, Africoids of the Mediterranean and West African type entered this area by way of India. Skeletal evidence from the Shantung and the Kingsu, China, showed a modern Africoid type, especially the initial Qinglian King and Mashibang phases. Mound culture. There was an extensive mound culture in China, stretching from its plateau in the west to the western coast of the Pacific Ocean. It includes Huanghui, the Yellow River and Huai River plan of North China, and the lower valley of the Yangtze River of central China. These mounds lie in the ancient line of Austronesian habitation. The mounds were occupied when these areas were much warmer than they are now. The Austronesian people descended from the Yuanshan and the Longshan cultures. In accordance with the oral traditions and Chinese proto-history, mounds were invented by Huang Di Fu. The legendary rulers Sai Hao and Huang Ji were buried in Chu mounds. These Chinese mound cultures began around 3000 BC and a thousand years after a similar culture had developed in Africa. One of the most important mound cultures of China was that of Hushu. The Hushu mounds were man-made knolls called terraced sites. The mounds served as 1. Burial places, 2. Religious centers, 3. Habitation. From southern China, the Asiatic peoples invaded the North China, which was mainly inhabited by Australoids and a smallish Negroid Mongoloid group. Although the Australoids had been the first inhabitants of China by 1000 BC, many of them had been exterminated or absorbed by the taller, heavier Mongoloid back tribes that were slowly expanding southward from the north. By 3000 BC, the Negritos were being forced into isolated areas of China by pro-Saharans. Around the same time, the Oceanic people were moving northward from the coastal plain areas. Now, what's interesting too is when you go to the Journal of the Royal Asiatic Society, Article 15, there's an essay on the descriptive manners and customs of the Moors of Ceylon. The several ceremonies and external observances of religion practiced by the different castes of Tamils or Hindus have been made the subject of a former essay. My present intention is to particularize those which are peculiar to the Moors, as far as they have come within the reach of my observation, and also to note the striking similarity they bear to the ceremonies of the Druze. I shall first, however, offer a few preliminary remarks on their origin and on the etymology of the various epithets by which they are customarily designated and distinguished among other tribes of natives. We have no authentic records extant respecting the origin of the Moors, and therefore it is not possible to trace it with accuracy. What has been offered on the subject by European writers appears to have its foundation in nothing but the vague and often distorted traditions circulated among the natives themselves. According to one of these traditionary accounts, the Moors who reside on the east coast and the interior parts of Ceylon, equally with those on the Coromandel coast, are descendants from the tribe of Arabs of the posterity of Hasham, who were expelled from Arabia by their prophet Muhammad as a punishment for their pusillanimous conduct in one of the battles in which he was engaged against the partisans of Abu Jahil and who afterwards founded a colony at Kailpatnam, and from whence moved in successive emigrations toward the islands and along the borders of the peninsula of Hindustan, as far as Ramsara. In the Tamil language, the Moors are usually dominated by the term Janakar, and they do not object to it. If this should be their proper appellation, it completely overturns the preceding idea of their Arabic origin, because it can hardly be reconciled to a passage in the Mahabharata, the date of which the learned Orientalist Wilford fixes at 3,200 years before Christ, where the Jakanar are mentioned as then existing in India and serving in the armies of the contending princes. In the reference point, we have no authentic records respecting the origin of the Moors. That's just dealing with Ceylon. That's just dealing with there. So why this is why it is so hard for us to find authentic records with us in it. Like we were talking about earlier, Ms. How that the Chicago Proclamation from Harold Washington in 86, and that being yet another reference point of Moors not having any authentic records for ourselves, but here comes somebody with a record putting Moors on the record, because it appears that nobody else is doing this. It appears that Asiatic with a European name knew something, because if he's Washington, then we already know he's Washita. And for him to be talking in favor of the Moors would mean that he has to be in some type of circle. You know what I mean? No different than Isaiah Thomas brought up Noble Drew Ali. He had to be in some kind of circle to be able to say that so confidently. To be able to say, I'm going to put out a proclamation for the Moorish Americans in 86. And it's for Noble Drew Ali, and it's for all the great work that he did in bringing this information to these so-called African whatever like that in Chicago. But no, there's no authentic record for us. We're the record. We're the ones. You're not going to find a record that deals with the Moors unless it comes from the Moors. Which again is why we give honors to Moorish Paradigm, RV Bay Publications for putting it on the record, Moors Order of the Round Table, Khalifa Media for putting it on the record. Go ahead, Moore. Didn't mean to cut you.
Yeah, no, I didn't want to cut you either. But in these days and times, and even before now, like Moors, like when we look at real history, not what they give us in school, because we know that that's the super edited version of what's really good. I know some people would rather use the word chronology opposed to history.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, it is out there. It is out there. It's in so much history books, for lack of a better word. You get into the 1900s and prior. Like Moors, you wasn't talking history really if you was not talking Moors. That's what it appears to be like to me.
Yeah.
Like from things I've seen, the history of the Moorish Empire in Europe. Books like Nick J. Rogers, Nietzsche Knows No Color Line, where he's telling you where to go look at these records. These reference points are out of this world. And You know what I mean? Like, and even like old newspapers in the early 1900s, right? And even before that, you know what I mean? Like, it was not a secret, yo. Like, everything was Moorish, you know, and even in the influence of Moors is forever silently written in history and reminded to us in our everyday lives. Because, like, something as simple as the architecture, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, one thing, if they could try to delete everything about Moors from history and all of that, and make us seem like we're some crazy radical sovereigns and we don't have no say-so in society and all of this crazy foolishness, right? But one thing they can never take away from us is that in architecture, we invented the arch. So, like, I walk past buildings every day and get reminded, you know, of Moors. You know what I'm saying? Like, I see it, like the arches, you know what I'm saying? And there's different sorts of styles of building, like old buildings. It's like, yo, our record is always on public exhibition. It's just, we don't really know, you know what I mean? What's really good. So, and at this point, I don't think the Europeans have any interest in teaching it. You know what I mean? Like, at this point in time, at a certain point in time, it was all that it was to talk about. Like, you know what I mean? Like, their whole history is based off of Moors. Like, their whole history is based off of Moors. Like, facts, though. You know what I mean? Like, even with us talking about, like, how, you know, September 16th was the first time we ever used the Great Seal. But, you know what I mean? These are ancient Moorish emblems in that sense. They know that. They know that because the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, was established before that first use of the Great Seal.
Straight.
So, you know what I mean? Like, it's just crazy, bro.
Yeah. Right. So, back to this Journal of the Royal Asiatic Society. I should suppose that mingling afterwards with the Arabs, Mongols, and Pathans by intermarriages, they, the Moors, generally degenerated from the parent stock and became constituted into a separate and distinct body by adopting the tenets of Islamism. The Sinhalese imposed on the Moors the title Marakalaya, or boatmen, which is very probably derived either from the circumstance of their having had formerly at their command the export of the commodities of Ceylon, or from their crossing over to the island in boats from the opposite shore where they made their settlement. Mr. Boyd, one of the reputed authors of the Letters of Junius, in his account of the embassy to the court of Kandy, describes the Moors under the name of Cholias, Cholias, and Sir Alexander Johnson designates them by the appellation Lubbies, or Lubs. Before quitting the subject of their origin, I must add that the title Moor or Moro appears to be equally inapplicable to this race. Dr. Guthrie, in his Geographical Grammar, states that his appellation was generally bestowed on the Saracens who invaded Spain, and the greater part of them having come from Mauritania in Africa, though in modern times it has been rendered a common epithet of Mohammedans of all sects and countries who are settled in Hindustan and on the coast of the Barbary. Having thus endeavored to trace the outline of the origin of the Moors, as well as their name, I shall now proceed to delineate their rites and ceremonies as already proposed in the commencement. it is somewhat singular that among most nations of the world, the bridegroom or his parents solicit a marriage, but among the Moors alone, the bride must commonly, her parents are accustomed to anticipate it. So then it starts going into the culture of these Moors near Ceylon. So if they're talking about Moors near Ceylon, and then they're talking about Moros in the Philippines, and then they're talking about Moors, Spain and everywhere else. You go out to these Cambodia, Thailand, all these different cultures. They have fezzes, turbans, scimitars, wall of scimitars, curly toe shoes, jalabias with the slit, women covering themselves with wraps. It's clearly all one culture. All across the planet, one culture. Everywhere you go, you can't refute it. You can't avoid it. Because in avoiding what the reality is, just like they're saying that, we honor our 5-point star. Forget all these other people's 5-point star. We honor ours. Somebody said in the chat about with regard to the Asian from earlier, that media doing a good job of making them have that perspective of these so-called black people. Which, when you think about it, more than likely, that's the only reference point that they have. That, people who look like those guys on TV shooting up each other, you wouldn't want them around either. If it really got down to it like that. As much as we are willing to take the responsibility and try to clean these people up, but if it's going to be some pulling teeth stuff, like what it is with our people, if they're not just gonna gravitate to this, you know what I mean? Just like we know people who got kidnapped or whatever like that, they get out, you put them on Moorish science and they get it immediately because they just went through the ringer with these people. And it's not even a question to them about the status, being in the low status, bringing yourself into the higher status, because, you had a lawyer and you still had to do 10 years. Obviously, the system doesn't work. So certain realizations that we come to, if it's going to be an accepted realization, then all for it. But if we're going to be pulling teeth with our people or whatever, I'm looking at it just like how Asian ladies looking at it. Don't be messing with those people over there because they're not about anything. All they're going to do is bring you down and bring your culture down. Look at their conditions right now. And we're just talking about the people who classify themselves as black. We're not talking about anybody else. We're talking about the people who live in black communities, who are involved in black on black crime, black this and black that, black grants, black awards, black entertainment, and all that. They're losing. They're not in any better position because they gave out some awards. If the guy lap dancing, the devil is getting awards, you're in trouble. Like, you're in trouble. Islam, more I yield if you have anything to add.
Oh, peace. Hold on. I don't know. Let me see something. Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah. What I wanted to add on is when you were saying, and it just correlated with when you said that
the lawyers, people are getting lawyers, and the lawyers still got them doing 10 years. You know, and it reminded me of something in the J. Rogers book where he said nationality is the strongest of all objections. Of all objections, nationality is the strongest. That was in J. Rogers' book, no cap. But what it reminded me of immediately, considering that and what you said about the lawyers still got people doing time, is like, I mean, I think this is where it has to be some accountability for our own actions, but this is why knowing what impropria persona sui juris actually means, right? If we're in the days and times where, as Noble Drew Ali said, we might even be past it into another phase, but it's still relevant, right? Where it says, every nation must worship under its own vine and fig tree, and every tongue must confess its own. If like we're really gonna live these lessons, you know, when it comes to being accountable for actions, I think, you know, that kind of shows that same integrity on a divine level when people go and impropria persona sui juris. Again, I'm not telling anybody what to do, but I'm just saying when you look it up and it says that, you know, pleas to the court must be pled impropria persona, because if not, it gives jurisdiction to the attorney. It literally says this, and after the attorney obtains leave, it gives jurisdiction. You know what I mean? And of course, etymologically speaking, the word jurisdiction means right words. But who has the right words to, you know, confess their own or own innocence in the spirit of the law, in the letter of the law? You know what I mean? To actually live out what it is, like, you know. So I would say, if you're doing things that are just and true, right, and they're according to the law and the divine law and the Constitution, again, as we hear on the eve of quote Constitution Day, etc., it's like, you know, if we're really going to confess our own and our actions are according to law, you know, all of that correlates, like, to what you said about, you know, attorneys or lawyers still got people doing time, but that's the whole point. You know what I mean? It's like the whole thing is to attain leave. So, like I said last month, the best way to avoid a case or be the case is to never put yourself in that position. Right. You know what I'm saying? Even though people get jammed, you know what I'm saying? It's still like, you know, you do what's right, do what's according to law. You know what I mean? And don't be stupid about it. As the old saying goes, if you're talking about freedom, you can't be free and dumb. It just doesn't work out. You know what I'm saying? So make sure that you got the knowledge. You know what I mean? Love yourself enough to be informed. So, you know, if you out here trying to be free, but you're being dumb, it doesn't add up with freedom. You know what I'm saying? You have to be wit. You have to be wise. You have to have knowledge. You know, as we've been telling people for over 10 years, if you do not know your rights, you do not have them. That's how it goes. That's how it goes. That is first things first. If you do not know your rights, you do not have them. And it's just that simple. You know what I'm saying? You got to know your rights, because you got so many different types of rights, right, that may be personal to you, exclusive rights. You might have a right to something that nobody else has the right to. You know, it's all types of rights. So know your rights, right? Know yourself, right? And you know what I mean? Worship under your own vine and fig tree. And in that way, every tongue must confess its own. And, you know, but again, some people need that assistance. Some people need that help. I'm not saying that that's not a good idea to have, you know, that type of relationship if need be. But if you really are, like, I mean, really, really, really are mentally impropria persona sui juris, and, you know, at the same time, you got to know we in the days and times where every tongue must confess its own, and every nation must worship under its own vine and fig tree. And again, I'm just saying what Jay Rogers said, in his book, Sex and Race, that nationality is the strongest of all objections. But don't be doing stuff to embarrass your nation either, right? So, you know what I mean? You want to keep your nation's image not looking too crazy, right? And this is what I'm saying. It's like, man, I don't know, man. This subject of hyphenated Americans is kind of crazy, but I'll say this: if it's one thing to be like, we're Moorish American, and you know, respectively, that's true. But it's another thing when we say we follow Noble Drew Ali, right? And then people are then saying, okay, well, Noble Drew Ali didn't say you had these rights and that rights. Like, if the principles, like, forget what you know about him. If the principles are supposed to be 5 universal for everybody, right? We should all be able to build on those 5 principles, no matter what we do or don't know, right?
Yep.
Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, right? But it's like somebody looking at us crazy because we're like, all right, well, you know, one of the principles that we feel gravitated to and really all about is freedom. We love all 5, but, you know, freedom is a very important part. We want to do the work on that one, right? Not that we want to leave the other ones out.
No.
It's like when you look at the legal, lawful definition of freedom, and Moors are exercising that, whether that be the right to travel or the right to utilize their own property, whichever way they choose to use it. You know what I mean? Again, I'm not saying what anybody should or should not do, but that is in fact freedom. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, people have colonial mindsets, but claiming to be, you know what I'm saying, about these principles of Noble Drew Ali. And then to tell you that those Moors who are really, really what it boils down to is about freedom, right? They're supposed to be looked at as outcasts and radical. And that's not what Noble Drew Ali taught. That's what they're saying. Noble Drew Ali didn't teach that. But in fact, he did, because the 5 principles of freedom, if you look up freedom, I don't think there's any dispute. It shouldn't be if we understand these principles to, you know, people's freedom of movement in whichever way so they may choose to move through their own property or whatever, you know, as long as no restraints are happening unless by due process of law, right? So, again, that's not saying be reckless, but I'm saying these are things we got to consider. The fight has been that for some years, you know what I mean? Centuries at that, about freedom. So I don't know, man, but I think that there is a divide even amongst us as Moors, you know what I'm saying? When people are taking this concept of, we're Moorish Americans and Noble Drew Ali didn't teach you about any of those rights that you are sovereign when, you know, it's clear in the Circle 7, he did mention these things. It's convenient how people skip right over those chapters, but he did mention sovereignty in chapter 29. I'm not telling anybody to be a sovereign citizen. I'm just saying, according to what I studied, it is mentioned in there, right? And according to what I know, you know, the 5 principles are love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. So I think people think it's sweet because the first principle is love. But just because the first principle is love don't mean everything is sweet. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, you got to do some contrary. I mean, I don't want to say the wrong thing, but, you know, love doesn't mean everything is peaches and cream. You know what I'm saying? Love is tiptoeing and galloping through the tulip fields. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not that. You know what I mean? Like, so, like, I think people think it's sweet, like we're supposed to be passive just because our first principle is love, and then they throw away the other four of the truth. What is the truth of the matter is that, the people do
the people do have the right to travel. You know what I'm saying? The people do have, you know, and then they say, well, you know, it's rules and regulations. I get that. You should know the rules of the road, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
You know, what certain signals mean, signs mean. I'm not saying that that's not true, but if you good, you shouldn't, you know what I mean? Like, I'll leave it at this. If our ancestors invented the land conveyance, don't tell me nothing about nobody else's rules about it in that sense. But you should know the rules and respect the rules of the road. Right. And again, I'm not telling anybody or everybody to just go do whatever. I'm just saying that's what it is. You know what I mean? So there's levels to it. You know, I realized that, yeah, in fact, Noble Drew Ali did give us the points to look at these things and considering freedom, considering justice, considering peace, truth, love, right? All of these things, or if y'all want me to say it in order, Moorish, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, I already know. But considering these 5 principles, you know, it's like you hear Moorish, people who claim to be Moorish American or Moorish American Muslims and following the lessons of Noble Drew Ali, they are in fact restricted his lessons to what they don't teach in the temple or what they do teach in the temple, which is basically the Circle 7 among other things. You know what I mean? But I don't think they're going all the way in. So their ideology is, oh, the Prophet Noble Drew Ali didn't teach that. Yeah, no, the Prophet Noble Drew Ali did teach aspects of these certain things, but y'all don't teach aspects of what he taught. And then the Moors who understand that and the 5 principles are getting labeled as radicals and outcasts. Yeah. And I just think that that's unfair to, you know what I mean, what his real message was. Because, you know, we didn't come up with the message that there's no need for the application of the 14th and 15th Amendment. That's Noble Drew Ali saying that in his divine warning. And if you read the 14th and 15th Amendment and understand jurisdiction, you see why he was saying that. It's very clear. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you got these people who are adopting the 14th Amendment type of citizenship, right? And correlating that 14th Amendment citizenship with American citizenship. And they are not the same. And don't tell me what they mean when they say it. I'm talking about legally, lawfully. There is a difference between American citizenship and United States citizenship. Because America is north, south, and central. Period. That's just a fact. And we know the etymology or the meaning of the word America in its original application applied to the various copper complexion natives found on the continent by whom? Europeans, right? That's the original application of the name. Mm-hmm. So, you know, looking at that, it's like, I think that a lot of the hate for Moors and or Moorish Americans comes from that era of the about 1890 to 1920, you know, with this hyphenated American thing, right? Now, I see you have it on the screen. Well, let me pull it up because I know there's a section on there that says hyphenated Americanism from 1890 to 1920, right? Can you see that section? Or I got it on my personal screen.
Hold on, what do you on the wiki? On the wiki?
Yeah. Because there's references there. I don't know how I got led to this. Okay, you got it. Oh, okay, you want something else. All right, there. I'm not even mad at that.
No, I was on.
Read this from here, right?
I was on an article with about the hyphenated American, but I'm on the thing right now, on the wiki now. So which one? The 1890?
Either way it goes. Right. Yeah. And again, you know, I don't even remember how I got led to this about hyphenated Americanism, but I realized that you know, maybe this is where the origin of a lot of discrimination was coming in at for quote Moorish Americans. You know, people blame the modern day when a lot of this has very much so older roots that we're seeing, you know,
blossom into different things, and we're picking certain weeds and uprooting certain things. But I just believe that, you know, it has older origins, why we're seeing this type of discrimination in certain cases. Because like you said, with all of the mayors, you know, coming out and supporting, and different people in political positions, if you will, locally, whatever the case may be, it's not all hate all the way through. But I would say somewhere deep in the systemic aspect, it's there. You know what I'm saying? The discrimination, the disdain, it still lingers in the systemic aspect of it, right? So I just wanted to put this on the record. It says hyphenated Americanism, 1890 through 1920. It says the term hyphenated American, quote unquote, was published by 1889 and was common as a derogatory term by 1904. During World War I, the issue arose of the primary political loyalty of quote-unquote ethnic groups with close ties to Europe, especially German Americans and also Irish Americans. So like what they're considering a hyphenated American is any quote American with another nationality before it. So German Americans and also Irish Americans. Then it goes on to say, former President Theodore Roosevelt, in speaking to the largely Irish Catholic Knights of Columbus at Carnegie Hall on Columbus Day 1915, asserted that there is no room in this country for hyphenated Americanism. Now, mind you, he's saying this to the Knights of Columbus in 1915, right? This is 2 years after Noble Drew Ali established. You understand what I'm saying? And this is the type of talk that Roosevelt and them is talking. 2 years after the establishment of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, or Old Canaanite Temple, or what would later become the Moor Science Temple of America, right? And this is how the so-called politicians is talking in this time. So again, I'm going to give that back. It says, former President Theodore Roosevelt, in speaking to the largely Irish Catholic Knights of Columbus at Carnegie Hall on Columbus Day 1915, asserted that there is no room in this country for hyphenated Americanism. When I refer to hyphenated Americans, I do not refer to naturalized Americans. Some of the very best, quote-unquote, Americans I have ever known were naturalized Americans. And you know, this is all color of law BS, but this was what he's saying. He says, Americans born abroad, but a hyphenated American is not an American at all. The one absolute, mind you, this is Theodore Roosevelt saying this, right? The one absolutely certain way of bringing this nation to ruin, of preventing all possibility of its continuing to be a nation at all, would be to permit it to become a tangle of squabbling nationalities, an intricate knot of German Americans, Irish Americans, English Americans, French Americans, Scandinavian Americans, or Italian Americans, each preserving its separate nationality, each at heart feeling more sympathy with Europeans of that nationality than with the other citizens of the American Republic. There is no such thing as a hyphenated American who is a good American. This is Theodore Roosevelt saying this, right? He says the only man who is a good American is the man who is an American and nothing else. And then it goes on to say President Woodrow Wilson regarded hyphenated Americans with suspicion, saying in his Pueblo speech, any man who carries a hyphen about with him carries a dagger that he is ready to plunge into the vitals of this republic whenever he gets ready. So now I'm looking at that, right? And these are Europeans who have the same for other hyphenated Europeans. Now, were they ashamed of themselves, right?
were they ashamed of themselves, or because everybody they were listed, like German Americans, Irish Americans, English Americans, French Americans, Scandinavian, Italian Americans, right? These are all their peoples, right? And they got disdain for that. So were they trying to be something they weren't by claiming to be just Americans, when all of the other Europeans was actually trying to honor their foremothers and forefathers, or somewhat trying to honor their own nationality? So when I see that, and I see that, this is some of the so-called government's heroes, in a sense, you know what I'm saying? And they already back then in 1915 had a disdain for, quote, hyphenated Americans. Is this bias on Moorish Americans today something new, or is it of older origins? If, you know what I'm saying, they're talking about how they don't like hyphenated Americans. I don't know, but I do know that American and Moor means the same exact thing, and that means something, you know what I'm saying? Oh, also, it goes on in there, and it gives a reference to a time frame of the census of the 1980s, right? Because we was talking about the Black Grant, and it says European American as opposed to white or Caucasian has been coined in response to the increasing racial and ethnic diversity of the quote-unquote U.S., as well as to the diversity moving more into the mainstream of the society in the later half of the 20th century. It says the term, speaking about European American, the term distinguishes whites of European ancestry from those of other ancestry. In 1977, it was proposed that the term European American replace quote-unquote white as a racial label in the U.S. Census, although this was not done, right? So it goes on to say the term European American is not in common use in the so-called U.S. among the general public or in the mass media, in the terms white or white American are commonly used instead. But okay, are they still not? Is there still not an artificial construct that's a hyphenated American, a white American, a Black American? And none of these are real. These are hyphenated. These are brands. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying that to say that, looking at that and knowing that that's what Woodrow Wilson said, it's kind of interesting to see that it was a certain level of disdain for that, even during Noble Drew Ali's time. And some of these people still have that same sentiment, So I didn't want to go OD on it, but I just wanted to point that out, that there is certain records that you can look up and look back into and see that, the disdain within the so-called government that a lot of people are telling you the people should be obedient to. And I'm not saying you shouldn't be respectful. I'm not saying you should be an outlaw or suggesting that. But what I am saying is that that same so-called system and structure has disdain for nationalities at its core, right? So, and that's not nothing new. This was on the team when Noble Drew Ali was here. That's all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That's all I'm saying. So, it's kind of crazy. But, yeah, they had a thing with that. A hyphenated Americanism. You know what I'm saying? And, like, when they're trying to blame all of this, disliking and blowback and disdain on Moors for that, I don't think that's fair, just and true. Like, it's something that's been existing.
Sure.
Yeah. Facts on fact. So, I mean, how do you feel about that? Do you think that's something we should be worried about under the color of law? Or, like, you know what I mean? Is that relevant in any way? Do you feel like that? Y'all feel like that? Or you think that's something not even worthy of knowing, or doesn't matter, or, you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, if we stick to the principles and we stick to the lessons that were presented, everybody would be identified by their nationality, and the only people who should be hyphen American should be individuals who are Americans, the Aboriginal and Indigenous people who were here before any foreigners came here, not just Europeans. And the idea of because they made us, they had a section in here under the use of the hyphen part. They're talking about on the other hand, the New York Times Manual of Style and Usage allows compounds with name fragments such as Italian American and Japanese American, but not Jewish American or French Canadian. So if we're going through all the different jurisdictions, is there hyphen whatever anywhere else? I never seen hyphen. I never seen somebody from here go to somewhere else and they call them a, United States hyphen Congolese or whatever. I haven't seen somebody go any other continent and get hyphen continent. Nowhere else does that happen. So there's this anomaly of certain things only happening in the quote unquote new world, but it doesn't really happen anywhere else. So the idea or the perspective of looking at it, is that it has nothing to do with the hyphen. It has to do with the nationality. They're Italian, they're Japanese, they're Armenian, they're Colombian, they're Korean, Norwegian, but a Mexican is an American. A Brazilian is American. United Statesians not American. Canadians not American.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. But I don't, it's once we stick to identifying by nationality, then the whole hyphenated thing gets thrown out the window. Because like we say, somebody from America going to Europe, they're not going to be a Mexican European. Not going to be a Brazilian European.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a Moro European. Taiwanese European. They don't talk like that. There's not going to be a Brazilian Asian. Somebody from Brazil moves to Asia, now they're a Brazilian Asian. Where do they do that at? And if they don't do that, then why they do that here? Something's going on. There's something they're doing it for. You know what I mean? And it could only be for their colonial friends or whatever to get tied to being American so they could claim all your stuff because you want to be dumb nigger. And you want to be African.
Yeah.
And you want to be all these fictions instead of being who you are, the American. Oh, you don't want to be it? Fine. Then Filipinos are going to be it. French are going to be it. German are going to be it. Colombian are going to be it. Italian are going to, anybody and everybody is going to be it if you don't want to be it. It's that simple.
Straight facts.
Straight facts.
Straight facts. Yeah. And I was thinking too, because they mentioned how in 1977 it was proposed to take white off of the census and put European American.
Yeah, yeah.
But with European American be fraud, just like African American, like African American is a hyphenated.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? That's not. You know what I'm saying? Like none of it makes sense. You know what I mean? Like real talk, it just doesn't make sense. So. Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. That's just a little different. Like that was really a thing in the times of Noble Drew Ali, and still in the face of it all, even before he established the old Canaanite temple, you know, that was the thing from 1890 to 1920, you know, and you know, like again, when the people they were mentioning, like German Americans, we know we could go back through the history and trace Moors through Germany. We could go, and they say Irish Americans. We could trace, you know, Moors back to Ireland, all of that, like high civilizations prior to the Europeans even being called that. But still, in the face of all of that, you know, Noble Drew Ali made the claim. You know what I'm saying? He still made that claim. There's something there, you know what I mean? In the face of all of that, obviously adverse to what the president and all of them was feeling like. You know what I'm saying? He said that. So, you know, it's just crazy when we consider like how everybody is supposed to be, who's supposed to be a Moorish American is just supposed to be, you know, consenting and acquiescing to different aspects of politics and government that are clearly corrupt. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And was and has been corrupt since Noble Drew Ali was on the scene, even before that. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's always going to be something. But, yeah, more. Oh, man, I apologize. There was a caller from the 609 that had their hand up for a while and dropped off.
Get back on there.
I apologize. I didn't.
Get back on there, 609.
Yeah, but there is a couple more callers. You want to get into
Islam? Yeah, we could take those. Yeah, we could take those.
Okay, bet. Let's say that. So let's start with caller 215-791. Peace, man. You live on the air. You with us?
Hello, peace. Greetings to peace, my loved one.
Peace.
Peace.
Hey.
Right.
Yeah, calling in. Y'all are so awesome. You know, you cover so much, and it's really, you know, very, very timely, the things that you cover. Especially like tonight with, you know, the date. I really wouldn't care, especially Ms. Rahim, if it was like on a Monday or on a Tuesday. With the research that you do, I'm sure, you know, what the ancestors gave you something, showed you some jewels that happened on that day too. So that's the kind of studying you do. But that was awesome, you know, to discuss that. And then I wanted to ask you, did you say Hiawatha when you were saying, how did you say that?
Hiawatha. I couldn't spell it out. It's definitely an Aboriginal appellation, but it's Hiawatha. Hiawatha.
That's you know, in my family. That's in my family. That's her name. Her name. It was my grandmother. My you know, my father was raised by the mother, and so the territory they lived in was Orangeburg, South Carolina, and so one of his cousins, that's what she was named for. You know, just what you said. You know, and so I find that you know very interesting. You know, I've learned a lot more about that name and like why they would even, you know, why they gave her that name and things like that. Like, that was pretty cool. Then I wanted to just touch on you know, something that Brother Kuja said about, you know, especially this, you know, people teaching their children, you know, mandatory teaching their children and women, teaching a child, you know, to hate Aboriginal people. You know, was something that, you know, Harvey Bay, you know, said last night, you know, about history repeating itself. If we don't, you know, take measures to change it, because he is creative, we have to change what's going on. But one thing for sure, and two for certain, you know what, this thing has been going on, like you said. So, I mean, just imagine, Hitler, and how, all of them were trained and trained their children to hate, another nationality, and all these things about them. And then all the things that were always said, about us. You ain't got to worry about those little pickaninnies. They'll never be able to contend with you because they don't know how to read. And those that do won't. So we've heard all, like, negativity is such, and even us, they play the same game. I mean, on my generation, and getting us to stand up and pledge, pledge allegiance, to this banner. Like all of the crazy stuff. But the thing that's for sure is that love is the key. So while she's teaching all of that, hatred and hate is all over the place, and this woman is getting time on the hair and spreading.
I don't want to cut you off at any type of sense, but you got a lot of feedback in your background. I don't know if you got a TV on or the computer playing in the background, but if you could just turn the volume down a little bit.
Yeah, I can hear it too, but it's not me. I don't have anything more than that. Yeah, I don't think that's me. That's somebody else.
No problem. We just want to push through it. It's all good. Because I'll wrap it up. I was going to say, like, with her teaching her all that, we already know that love is the key. That's why, we're here to teach love and not hate. So with what's going on today, with respect to, call it corona, call it whatever you want, what your heart is being tried, amongst the feathers, what to see, just really what's in your heart. Everything is being exposed. That kind of behavior is not going to be tolerated. I mean, what the universe declares it. It's just not going to be tolerated. So she can teach her that, all she wants, but we know that that's not going to, prosper anything. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And so if you want to teach hate, humiliation, teach all these things, and you know what? That ain't going nowhere. It'll die off quick. And the last thing is with this, didn't y'all say hyphen? Didn't y'all mention something about hyphen? Right? Did I hear that tonight?
Yeah, hyphen American.
Or stuff like that.
Hyphen American.
Yeah, hyphenated American.
All right, so listen, are y'all familiar with last flag standing? If you could write that down, it's last flag standing, I would imagine.com. And the young man's name is my European, named Russell J. Gould. And he uses that language, and it's a whole lot of them that use that language, like Judge Miller. Well, it was a judge, y'all.
No, he wasn't a judge.
David Wynn Miller. He used all them hyphens and colons, all that stuff, and started like there's a whole movement of modern Europeans that use that. And if you go under last flag standing, it's documentary film on Russell. But you know what? That's what he stands for. He stands for all this hyphenated, this, that. And I just recently, I don't watch this man, but I just recently watched a tape of his the other day, and he's talking, a lot about Aboriginal people. And you know what? When he signed off, he said, "I'm, Russell hyphen." That's how they. Maybe y'all want to take a look at that and see if that coincides with what it is you've been hearing about these people calling themselves hyphenated. Now, the prophet told us, like his feelings on that as well. So yeah, that there's a lot of them out there using that. So I use it good.
Islam. Thanks for calling in, mother. Appreciate the call.
Islam, indeed. We highly appreciate that. Thank you for tuning in and adding on. That means so much if you have somebody resonate with that. We also have another caller.
we're gonna get to our next caller. Mother Malvina, we definitely appreciate you on every level. And we'll be back at it. We'll be getting it in again. But we're gonna go to the next caller now. And thank you so much, so much for calling in and adding on. We appreciate you. Peace and love. All right, one. All right. Cool, bro. That being said, we're gonna move to the next caller. Caller 682-360. Peace, fam. You live on the air. You with us? Yes, I am. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
Alaikum assalam. Thank you. I wanted to touch on a few points for this too late. I know y'all probably got other callers. First point I want to speak on is when you were talking about the freedom, right? And our principles, and the 5 principles, love, truth, peace, freedom, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And you're correct as far as the freedom. Mother Jarleen said that if I could just get you to thinking, you free yourself, like y'all always reference, right? And so right there with that thinking, we understand that he wanted us to be free thinkers and not just subject to the law, right? Trying to get my points together. It's been a minute since I've been on. But just like he said, he wanted us to be free thinkers. He still brought us the law, you know what I'm saying, and the divine constitution, which was the law as far as Moorish Americans and what we follow, right? But the reason why he did that, I believe, is because the law is really for the unrighteous, right? So we have fallen humanity. So when you fallen as a people, you need law in order to bring you back up, right? Or get you back in order. And I think that's why he brought the law, right? And if I may give a reference in the Holy Bible, it's 1 Timothy chapter 1. I think I've said this before, but I want to put it on the record again. If I may go to it, I want to say is verse 9, right? And it says, knowing this, that the law is not made for a righteous man. Repeat that. Knowing this, right before, let's go to 8. I'm sorry. It's verse 8, 1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 8. It says, so we know that the law is good if a man uses it lawfully, right? So then we talking about the crooks, you know what I'm saying, the slaveholders who came and don't quote me on the date, but when they came and set up, the Constitution, and they added that 3/5 clause, right? You know what I'm saying? Because they understood that we would be the people to build this country, this nation, right? And so they had to use us, and they actually added it into that 3/5 clause. But Noble Drew was more intelligent than that. And he understood that we're not 3/5 person. We got a nationality, right? Making us free, not just subject to a 3/5 person, right? So what they basically try to do is use the law to make us lawful slaves, which is still incorrect. So we use intelligence to go around, right? So back to my point. If a man uses it lawfully, right? Knowing this, that the law is not made for a righteous man. Righteous don't need no law. Right? We're going to do right by what they say is the first two commandments is the only commandments that you need. Love God, or love Allah, and love thy neighbor if you love like you love thyself, right? So if you love yourself first, and you treat everybody else like you treat yourself, you won't steal from them, you won't kill them, you won't do anything to harm them, right? So, and that's what Yahshua brought too. The laws is unnecessary. Y'all killing people on Sabbath for going to get a sheep. I mean, going to going to work or gathering sticks, and y'all killing these people, right? But he said, if your sheep ran off on the Sabbath, would you go looking for it? Right? So he brought these same concepts. He brought, if you're righteous, you don't need no law. You know what I'm saying? But the whole point is, let me finish. But for the lawless and disobedient, for the ungodly and for the sinners, for the unholy and profane, for murderers of fathers, murderers of mothers, or manslayers, right? So a lot of us fit in that later definition. You know what I'm saying? Not us in general, because we're trying to fix it, but a lot of our people have fallen. And so we following after things that not of our life, not of nature, not of nothing. So he brought the law. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I want to say on that point. But you said something earlier too about nationality is the ultimate objection, something like that.
Yeah, it was in Jay Rogers' book, and y'all got a part of me. It was the one I was actually looking for all day, damn near, but I couldn't find. And for whatever reason, I can't find it right now. I'm going to find it though. And I got the other two right here. Like I got the whole set right here. Well, 2 out of the 3, but I can't find that one. But in that one, it says nationality is the strongest of all objections. You know what I mean? Right. And nationality is the strongest of all objections. Or now that I'm second guessing it, it might have been in the Institutes of American Law. But I know for a fact it's either Institutes of American Law or J.A. Rogers, Sex and Race. But it says nationality is the strongest of all objections. And I'm not, you know what I mean? I'm not telling anybody to go out there and be radical. I'm just speaking facts. Right. Like those are actual facts, that have reference points. We didn't make this stuff up. You know what I mean? Like we just sharing the replay. So, the truth is the truth. And if it was the truth then, it's the truth now. Why? Because we know, according to the lexons or add-ons of Noble Drew Ali, you know what I'm saying? I would say add-ons is, oh man, I'm sorry, y'all. I just brain farted. I forgot I was a point I was about to make, but it's all good. It's all good. But it come back to me. That's all that come back to me. Pardon, because I'm hearing a lot of feedback and it threw me off. Yeah. I don't know if it's just me hearing it. Yeah. But it did throw me off. So y'all gotta forgive me. Yeah, nationality is the strongest of all objections, though. That's definitely something I know for sure fact. I've read it. I got it in my note. Yeah.
And so to add on to that point, when you said it, it made me think of the Dred Scott case, right?
Yeah.
And so Dred Scott, he was I guess he made it to Missouri, and he made it to the so-called North, and was trying to claim that, okay, I made it, so I'm not a slave no more, right? But what he forgot is you still fall up under those black codes. The because nationality should have been your ultimate objection, right? Because then you wouldn't be considered under those black codes as 3/5 human, which you can't tell a man what to do with his property. That's basically what the judge is telling them. Like, yeah, you have no rights over a free white person, what they were trying to say, right? Because your nationality was correct. You still falling under those black codes, which is law. They made that law for every free and unfree slave. If you consider yourself black, they had rules and regulations for that. So he lost that case. So that's true and correct. Nationality would have been the ultimate objection. But ain't no lawyer gonna tell you that, like you said. Nobody gonna tell you that. They're not arguing that.
Oh yeah, pardon me. The thought came back to me. I was saying, as old as ancient sex and race is
Y'all will spend
this. The institution of American law is, if nationality is strongest of all objections, and we know through the lesson that truth does not change or pass away, that is as true back then as it is today, right? So that's what I meant to say. Like, according to the lessons or the add-ons of Noble Drew Ali, if truth does not change or pass away, if that was the case in the early 1900s, it really is the same case today. You know what I mean? That's what I wanted to say. Pardon me. Yeah, I'm sorry I had that. It's just mad feedback.
Yeah, it messed me up too. I had to pause a couple times too with myself. Yeah, but that's correct, man. That's true and correct. But I was listening to the video earlier when the Chinese people, the Chinese little girl and her mama was speaking to her and teaching her these things, and it hit me. Like, is that why I get these type of, like you said, not from all of them. I'm gonna give you my testimony after this, but most of them, they do kind of look down upon us, or they don't really weigh, they don't really say, they don't really speak to us, they don't really, let's excuse my language, fuck with us. They don't fuck with us. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of them don't. You know what I'm saying? Now I see that they're being programmed from a child. It's hard for them to change the way they think. If you've been programmed as a child to think a certain way about a certain people, right? But I did understand kind of where she was coming from. Like, some of we act real ignorant, you know what I'm saying? And a lot of people don't have to deal with that. We got to deal with it because we trying to uplift our people, teach them that this is not how we were acting, this is not how we were doing. We were great people. Rise, you mighty people, right? But they like, we for China. That's our nation. That's our country. We don't really, that's not our problem. The Negro problem is not our problem. Basically, don't get involved with that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So I understood.
I wanted to say this too. I wanted to ask you this too, brother Cujo. Like, if you pay attention to the video, right? If you pay attention to the video, when the little girl was saying that she was Chinese, did you notice how she didn't say the word Chinese? I don't know, like, it was some other sort of way she said it. She didn't just say Chinese like we said it. And she was saying we love the China flag, like it was about China. Yeah, she was talking about what we call China, but she, in her native tongue, was saying it a different way. I noticed that too.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I did notice that. She didn't say China, but she was talking about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's back to what they call themselves.
All right, I'm about to go back and look at that. You said it, let me say Ghana, my Ghana baby,
Yeah.
Wanna baby.
Yeah. It's called the name of the video is Chinese Mother Teaches Daughter That Black People Have Issues.
Okay.
And the video that it came up on is Go Black to Africa.
Oh, okay.
Is the name of the YouTube page.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go check it out with some clarity. But I ain't want to take too much time. I just want to get this out real quick. What was I gonna say?
You were saying about the testimonial.
You know, like, yeah. So, you know, what they fail to realize is that there's some of us that know who we are. You know what I'm saying? That get treated the same as, you know, those of us who have fallen. And I really don't care. But at the same time, it's not right for them because then they can't make certain links. You know what I'm saying? Because you programming from that, which I get that a lot of us is, you know, falling. So, but like my testimony is I walked in to the store today, you know, and there was a Chinese lady, that's the name for their nationality, lady at the counter, and you know, I do landscaping, and I had got an Asian hat actually from one of my other customers who's Asian, who don't treat me like that. Like, you know, I get good energy from a couple of my customers is Asian. You know what I'm saying? And you know, she gave me a Asian hat, right? And so I'm out there working, and I need to wash my hands so I can eat lunch. You know what I'm saying? And I went to the store, used the bathroom, and this is a store that I go into a lot. You know what I'm saying? And the owner always let me go into the bathroom and wash my hands or do what I got to do, even though they got an out of order sign on the door, right? So I go back there today, it's locked. I'm going up to the counter, I'm like, hey, excuse me, I need to eat my lunch, and I wash my hands too. I'm thinking I got the Asian hat on, but I'm doing something real quick. He looked at me like I was crazy. He was like, it's out of order. I'm like, nah, boss man always let me go back here and wash my hands. He's like, well, I don't have the key. I said, you don't have the key? I said, well, you got to use the bathroom, don't you? You know, I was kind of pissed off a little bit. I was like, dang, you ain't got to treat me like that. I just need to wash my hands so I can eat. You got these viruses out here. I'm touching stuff. I just want to wash my hands real quick. I understand that the bathroom, you know, I understand that, you know, people use the bathroom, don't clean up after they stuff, but I'm just washing my hands. You know what I'm saying? But she was trying to hear, all right, cool, whatever. You know what I'm saying? But it bothered me that, and I got to thinking, like, why do I get this reaction from a lot of them? And I treat them all with respect. Now, when I seen that video, I was like, that's why. You're programmed from babies to treat me like this. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, to each his own. I'm here to uplift my nation, whatever y'all do, that's fine. Y'all, you know, I do kind of understand where they're coming from, because, you know, China, they real China. China, that's it. There ain't nothing else. You know what I'm saying? So I do get kind of where they're coming from, but still, you don't need other nations. You know what I'm saying? So that was my testimony. Yeah, I ain't gonna take too much time. I know y'all got other callers.
Indeed. I mean, Allah Akbar, man. We appreciate you calling in and adding on, you know, your piece for the night. And you know, that's love. We appreciate that. All right, so that being said,
peace and love.
Likewise. Indeed. So look, that being said, bro, that is our last caller A couple callers did drop off. Anything you want to say in closing as we close this session out? I mean, it always feels like it's never enough time.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because there's so much more to go.
There's always something to going on.
Yeah.
But we just want to, you know, put it out for the Moors to do some type of you know, thank you ritual for your for the equinox coming up. You know, recognize that it's harvest time, so it's about, you know, being thankful for the bounty that we received after planting all these seeds, and you know, we're about to reap the crop. So, you know, give your thanks and honors to all the Moors worldwide, honors to Noble Jew Ali, honors to MHHS, Eyes Wide Open, rvbaypublications.com, and of course, Brother Miz for always being ready and game for something on a third Thursday. So peace and love to all the mothers worldwide. Islam.
Facts, bro. Likewise, acknowledgement to you all. Definitely acknowledgement to my mother. You know, to my mother, RV Bay. You know what I mean? All of the Moors who made this possible. All of the Moors who are here listening tonight and who are going to listen in the future. We highly appreciate you all. We do it for y'all. And, you know, likewise, bro, third Thursday, something special about that, man. We're going to remember that for life. You know what I'm saying?
Straight.
And I appreciate it, bro. Like, that's dope. So, you know, again, shout out to Canaanland Moors, everybody on the Moabite Sons album. I'm going to spin us out with some of those tunes, man. You know what I mean? And we're just going to ride these last couple minutes out with those vibes. You know what I'm saying? So, appreciate y'all. And like you said, again, because it's the equinox, right? We're coming up on the equinox, and we know that the victory is divine, but it's divine and national. So in essence, it's also what people generally call spiritual, considering the divine side. And when we speak about the equinox, this is one of the stations of the sun. And according to Noble Drew Ali's lessons, not me, not anybody else, but according to his lessons or add-ons, etc. And I don't mean add-ons in a bad way, like he innovated something. I mean, like, what is good to add on to your mental. He tells you that, you know, the stations of the sun is what's going to lead to victory. In the spirit of the mighty Allah, the cherubim and the seraphim, these are your guides and protectors. And that's what's going to lead to victory. It's not going to come through an idol. It's not going to come through any of that. You know what I mean? It's going to come through you being in tune with nature and acknowledging these stations of the sun. So, you know, that being the case, you know, let your observance, I trust it brings you, me, we, all victory. You understand what I'm saying? Whichever personal victory that is for us as individuals or collective. We're not going to win without knowing these things, because it's all based off of that. So that being said, we'll revisit that subject at another time, but I'm going to finish out with a few joints. Of course, got to play Leaves Fall as we move into autumn. Enough of me talking. I'm going to let y'all come with the bars, bro. And
Peace,
I'm going
boy.
to leave it at that. Peace and love to everybody. Islam, one.
Thursday. Extra flow. Sheik, Asiatic, Moor. Release Fall. Shalom David. House. Check it. They say they want to learn, they only debate. Representing the truth, trust me, they only thought it great. Any nationality before you question my estate. I'm not a minority. Why you so late? Majority rules, here comes the test. Fact, that's my hand in the form of a beat on the chest. That's a boom that is flat like a moon and a crest. Major forever, infinite mindset. Major for birth, that's a seed in process. I'm a Moor that is easy to digest. Compensate, never serious. That is my lab, never taken. Secret traditions, petitions for what you're not Jamaican. No Esperanto, support for. Everybody needs more. If you need more, following the Apostle Bishop Rebor, I see the unseen more before. More back. Saying that.
They say they want to learn, playing classes are too long. Don't want it on the phone call, energy too strong. Get it from the wrong source, now they way off course. Think they must be Muslim and give up on all sports. Should give up the red meat, must give up on all pork. Won't be yelling haram when the bottles are uncorked. Eating with the spoon, use forks for tuning. Eating humble pie, no ego ballooning. Samson 2 caterpillars, got a cocoon as the full moon hung spiral energy moving. Up through the crown chakra, energy shooting until we upload classes before live YouTubing. 16,000 subscribers, 20% consuming, 80% troll pretending to be tuned in. Comments on every video, pushing the thumbs down. We'll push the link when we live just like a clown. Pouring in the incompetence, always debating. Dissing True Ali but won't give their location. His image on the black banner, that's vacation. Just get him out of here, Yusuf yells in frustration. We know they're playing games, we're not berating. Calling 911 shit with thoughts penetrated. In defense of prophets and mothers abused. And newly awakened Moors, amused and confused.
Read off the pay every day. Uplift the beat cause we all pay. We enforce the law and we obey. Forefathers from before until today. Reading my Quran and my Torah. Universal laws in Moor. Read 4 chapters, receive it 4 ways. Great divine love rules of earth. Before I circle blocks, man, I circle 7 first. You bust the image, but your rhymes hurt. Declare 13, disrespecting earth. Love, but it's all in God's plan. Today's mathematics don't judge a man. Unity of life, embodiment of truth. I'm responsible for every deed because I've seen the proof. No, but true. Hey, you have to draw it out for you. Cause nationality is not a color I can use. There is the room. Standing on my prayer, even without shoes. On the highest authority, spirit of blue. Marcus Garvey, whirlwind times 2. The world's in the wind when the trumpet blew.
Stand up, go into your bathroom. If you got a big floor to ceiling, cut the light on and take a good hard look at yourself. You are the Moorish government, you know, and it took me a long time to get to understand that concept. I don't law and master. If I can govern myself, if I can govern my household, that's what I should be doing. Why should I walk out of my door and then leave everything that I know about myself in the house to go out and adopt something that I have no knowledge of? So we need to stop asking that question. I ask myself this question. If not me, then who?
Destined wisdom, my friends, intelligent creatures, guardians of sacred knowledge, Omega features, secrets of the afterlife, manifest the present day. Dirty ones and scoundrels lose their heads in a pleasant way. Deceit and deception, negative past thoughts, keep the awareness on point. Spirit messages never off inner realization. Encounter the higher self, explain existence, explain my consistence. Without a foe, they never know the path most resistant. Divinity, my twin flame, tragic and mistress, metaphysics, Kabbalistic, Alvarot, mystic, patriotic, make my thoughts sadistic, so indigenous, call me Americanistic, invoking the ancestors, Saracen cryptic, suns on rotation, flows ecliptic, shatter all illusions, reveal the realistic, sitting in the dark, holding the light marvelous, recognize the artisan, skin is so carbonous, hair so antenna, I feel them from Vienna, myriad of virtues, lessons, and reptilian henna, enlightenment seekers won't find it in mainstream, focus as a laser, stay balanced like a beam, not even a gymnast, whenever I flip it, as above, so below, get out when within this, don't think I'm a slave cause I speak in English, true I need the water, watch your flames get extinguished, living in your higher, lower self is relinquished, reputation of master teachers, call it distinguished.
Look, if you want to read it Galilean food, the Moors in Spain, written in 1812, or Alejandro Mataviza. Read his book in Spanish, the Moors in Spain, and take that even the black was introduced by those Africans. You know goddamn motion picture.
They got me to the gutter. Artifact, to my heart collapse. How they running through the scene like I'm on a lap. The way they left them on the scene, put us on the map. So I be all up on the scene, looking hard for artists on the Moorish artifact. Like I'm on the mission. See, I be running through the scene like I'm on a mission. The way they left us on the scene, made them on the mission. See, I be all up on the scene, looking for my shit like red flags, green dashes, we assassins. Triple gold, my feds high like I'm Selassie. Triple the cold, young men die, we everlasting. In the cold like Northgate, winter Alaska. Triple the pastor, taking it down my mind like a disaster ass within the fastest. If you don't represent the 13 bloodline, more fight bloodline, welcome to the front line. Maybe I want mine, I'm going patient, I'm cutting up in the lunch line. I call it crunch time, they trying to punch some, but I ain't no time. I'm local Charlie, I'm working overtime. Hidden GD, 1787, time 7-11, higher than 7 heaven, steady, no guessing, better summit the lesson. Who be trapping that house, I'm all alone like Kevin 2-7. I here to make my case, good law, and rep it. I shouldn't start the flies, no heads, listen. I keep a 7 man on the top for the dresser, working 7 days a gig, yeah, looking for that on the Moorish artifact, like I'm on the mission. See, I be running through the scene like I'm on the mission. The way they left us on the scene, made them on the mission. See, I be all up on the scene, looking for my shit like.
Doctrine of the trouble, reform, grave, Alexa. I'll always challenge jurisdiction of your capitals. Stand on your square. No apron of retraction. Who manifest exception? Turn out to your faction. Man is grand mantra. Know that self mantra. Get out the lower self and vibrate your chakras. Walking on the higher road, my staff on my levels on the line. My God protected all with the sevens up. 4 quadrant halos, celestial pharaohs. Expose those Socrates and Plato's. They shot down my cherry tree and still couldn't bury me. In their secret lodges, they pretend to be me. Indiana Jones, national treasures, angels and demons, and one world agenda. Raise up late smiles, alien, reptilian, running from the government, reform, civilian, invisible wars. Police state has risen, uplifting falling from their mental prison. 5-point star drawn, protecting wormholes, leads to the hand, the backs of third host.
Moorish artifact, like I'm on the mission. See, I be running through the scene like I'm on a mission. The way they left us on the scene, made them on the mission. See, I be all up on the scene, looking for my shit like.
But remember, when it came a time in 1766, Africans who were saying from 6-7-11, we were calling ourselves Moor, M-E-U-E-R-S-N-M-O-O-R-S. From 7-11 to 14-5.